members on that side.
Thank you.
And we're broadcasting now. Okay. Does not appear that we have board members there on the other side. I'll also make you a host.
Okay.
Nice shorts, Nick.
Hey, you know, business on top, party on the bottom.
Oh, man.
Okay, welcome everybody to the October meeting of East Bay Community Energy Board of Directors. Hope everybody's doing well. And Madam Clerk, let's call the roll.
Albany,
Present.
Berkeley,
Present.
Dublin.
Present.
Dublin is on the line. Thank you. Fremont. Hayward.
Here.
Livermore.
Present.
Thank you. Newark.
Here.
Piedmont.
Oops. Present.
Pleasanton.
Present.
San Leandro.
Present.
Tracy. Union City. Alameda County.
I'm here.
Emeryville.
Here.
Community Advisory Committee.
Present.
Oakland.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
You have a quorum. That's a good thing. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to now have general public comment. This is on any matters that might be of interest to EBCE but are not specifically on the agenda. Do we have any speakers for that, Madam Clerk?
We do. I'd like to call Jada Dumas, Barbara Stebbins, Jessica Tovar. And one more, Jingjing He. Blair, your microphone is unmuted.
Oh, Blair is going first. Can I go last after everyone else?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Jada, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thanks, Stephanie. Hi, this is Jada Durmaz-Dogan with East Bay Clean Power Alliance. I would like to talk about the missing content on EBC's website. So the last time I checked, we understand that there has been some changes on the website. So we expected that there could be some delay in uploading some of the content. However, now it has been some time and I checked this afternoon and the video recordings were available for January, February, May, and June board meetings, but the video recording for the April board meeting is still missing. So that was a meeting when the board voted against accepting the nuclear allocation in 2020. And the other missing video recording is the September board meeting. After hearing from my colleague, Jessica Tovar, the EBC staff uploaded the audio recording for the September meeting, and thank you for doing that. However, we would like EBC staff to upload the video recording of the September board meeting as well, because it's important to see what has been presented at the meeting. No. Also, I checked EBC's YouTube channel to see if I could find the video recordings of the April.
Use your car.
Okay, there's some background noise, but
That was yesterday.
so I checked the YouTube channel for the April and September board meetings, but I couldn't find them there either. So we would like the EBC staff to look into that issue and solve it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Recall that new customers would not be.
Mike, could you mute yourself?
Sorry.
Mike? Sorry.
Thank you. Jessica, your microphone is unmuted. I'm sorry, it's Barbara. Barbara, your microphone is unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I thought so. Good evening, everybody.
The comment I'm going to make refers to work that the California Alliance for Community Energy is doing, about to launch an effort to call for legislation that sunsets the power charge indifference adjustment, otherwise known as the PCIA. It was inspired by an op-ed that Mayor Liccardo and Supervisor Kuehl from Los Angeles put out, calling for a sunsetting of the power charge indifference adjustment, which was never meant to be an ongoing exit fee for community choice customers. But after a decision to adopt a Carla Peterman's alternate proposed decision, there is now no end in sight to the PCIA. And I think the staff as well as the board knows that the damage that fee is really causing to community choice programs throughout the state of California. There are now 21 operating community choice programs that are serving 11 million customers. The PCIA needs to be phased out. It was never meant to be a handout to the investor-owned utilities, but that is pretty much what it has become. The current effort in the California Public Utilities Commission that basically is, the proposal is simply to call for more allotments of carbon-free and resource adequacy energy from the IOUs to the community choice programs is completely inadequate. The PCIA has increased over 600% since it started, and it will continue. PG&E is just filing a trigger report with the CPUC, which might cause our customers to face very damaging increase in rates, sudden increase in rates because of under collection of the PCIA. So we'll keep you informed about this effort. We'll try and get you involved. We really need local electeds to talk to people like Nancy Skinner, who has been a real champion for community choice. We'd like her to be one of the co-authors on a bill to sunset the PCIA. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jessica, your microphone is unmuted.
Thank you. Jessica Tovar, East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And we submitted a letter last Thursday highlighting proposals that we would like to put on the table to keep our East Bay Community Energy Program nuclear free in its entirety. One of them was potentially subsidizing Brilliant 100, which is only about $3 million per year, and subsidizing it so that the cities who want to keep Brilliant 100 can have that product. My understanding is that at the last board meeting, there was a rate stabilization fund that was established. I think it was like $12.7 million. And noting that the Brilliant 100 would only cost $3 million. On top of that, my understanding is the net surplus, which was projected to be about $60 million, is now possibly $82 million. I heard potentially more than that. I think it's totally feasible for a $3 million subsidy for Brilliant 100 so that cities can continue to have that product, but also to keep our community choice program power content label free of nuclear energy. And it's a great way to keep your customers, your community happy, and not have to include damaging product to both your program, but also to the environment and specifically communities, desert communities where nuclear energy is often dumped. So we would like to see the cities continue to have Brilliant 100. I know that our allies, Sierra Club, have another proposal which we're excited about. So we're willing to work with you to make sure that we keep East Bay Community Energy nuclear free, and continue to serve the clean energy transition that we want so badly in our communities, to create jobs, improve our local health, our energy wealth, curb climate change, and really just uplift, the work that we need to do to create that infrastructure that's so desperately needed in our communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker, is that right?
I also have more late signups.
Okay.
I'll call them now. To get to that part of the screen. So I have Steve Hun, Alita Dupree, and Jingjing He. If you could please raise your hand if you'd still like to speak. There you are. Thank you. You are unmuted, Jingjing.
Great, thanks.
Go ahead. Oh, she got muted again.
Hello?
Hello, there you are.
There you are.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm Jingjing He, lead organizer at the Asian Pacific Environmental Network. My family and I got our first home in Hayward 11 years ago, and my family still lives in Hayward. I'm now a resident of Castro Valley, and both households are in the EBCE program. I was out 7 months ago to give birth to my baby, where the board and concerned community members ban nuclear in the program. And I got back from my maternity leave, and now feel like I'm back in the same fight from 7 months ago. I think, like many others, pandemic has made it really challenging to make plans about our life in the long run. And there's many like short-term challenges that we are facing right now. And as a new parent, I'm starting to plan my life more long-term for the baby. And to reflect that as part being a concerned member for the EBCE program, long-term solutions and plans are what we need. I see EBC as the baby with many co-parents. And as the steering committee member of EBC back in the day, we envision this program being the role model and a roadmap to bring solutions to give power to the people, not just provide electricity for cheap. And nuclear energy is a false solution to climate change and a violation of environmental justice. I strongly oppose adding nuclear to the program, and I wish we have added that as part of the goals for the program at its infancy. I don't want us to keep coming back to the same issue. As part of the APEN, as part of the East Bay Clean Power Alliance, we support keeping nuclear energy out of the Brilliant 100 and the entire East Bay Community Energy Program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blair Beekman, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thank you for letting me get a bit adjusted, and thank you. From the October 20th community advocacy meeting, I think I'm understanding the EBCE may be wanting to start a philosophy at this time that may want to tighten up and more formally present itself to the CPUC. So the CPUC can more easily accept the EBCE Brilliant 100 plan and its carbon-free goals for the upcoming year. And so it can be easier for the EBCE, to coordinate and sell its excess nuclear energy to other parts of the state and region as well. But I feel the EBCE needing to prove to the CPUC a Brilliant 100 plans in the next few months should also allow for the serious good intentions of the local community, and the local community that wants to bring the process along of how to slowly distance ourselves from nuclear power and its financing in the next decade. A very much of a thank you. The EBCE has worked incredibly in this time of COVID-19, that we actually have most of the same regular routines and practices with local energy at this time. It is from this, to try to use the current familiar words, I hope we can know how to walk and chew gum at the same time, and that we can be formal with the CPUC about carbon-free Brilliant 100. We can respect the current needs of nuclear energy trading, and to also be able to openly and politely begin to consider the steps to better leave nuclear power and its financing. Good luck to all of us in how we can balance good conversation and dialogue this fall. I'm hopeful that, you know, in the next 6 months, we can also start talking about 2023. And, you know, that number keeps being bandied around as the year that something is going to be happening. As the EBC staff, can you start to explain what we can expect by 2023? I think if we start really working towards ending nuclear now, that's when we get to the goal of 2023, we can be ready for things. I don't want to be ready just for another version of small nuclear reactors or fusion nuclear energy. You know, it's a time that we really learn how to separate ourselves from nuclear, and I hope we can begin the process now, and we can mention that when we be talking to the CPUC and other state agencies at this time. With 30 seconds left, I have a few more things to say. Thanks for the meeting. San Jose is going through some of the same things with the PCIA process, and as EBCE is, and so there are good connections, and how we can work on those connections. Good luck on that, and good luck to all of us. There is a good tradition at EBCE. I hope we can work on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have anything more?
Yes, I have Alita Dupree and second call for Steve Hunn. Alita, you have access to your microphone.
Thank you, Board Chair Dan Calvin, members, Alita Dupree for the record. I'm looking forward to this meeting. You know, I love a good public meeting. Can't seem to get enough of them. So about EBCE tonight, I know you have a big agenda. I just like to hit on the basics. Value proposition, ensuring that there is always a product that is less expensive than PG&E because we want to keep our customers. Solar and storage. Solar is getting cheaper by the month, it seems, and wind as well. And how can we be an agency that can encourage people to use electricity at the least expensive and best times of the day? And that is challenging because people's activities often don't match when electricity is at its least expensive. So storage, both in the macro perspective on the EBCE side, and also in the micro perspective in buildings, houses, apartments, commercial facilities, can help. Developing the electric vehicles and the charging, especially in multifamily housing and businesses, because not everybody owns their own real estate that they can use to be able to park and charge their cars. And electric buses and the like, which will help us to multitasking here. Help us to clear the air and a better way for people to move around. So rate making time of use, I would hope someday that EBC would become a municipal utility district so we can get a better handle on the delivery side of electricity rates because electricity is expensive in California, and you're doing a lot of really good work to lower it on the generation side. But we've got to work on that delivery side. So I would like to see, as always, EBCE be more than just a seller of kilowatt hours, but a forceful voice in advocating for clean, inexpensive, and equitable electricity for all. Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much. And Madam
you.
Clerk, is that
That
it?
concludes public speakers. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was our public comment period. And next, we're going to be moving to the consent agenda. We do have a lengthy consent agenda, so please, everyone, review that on your top agenda, and let the clerk and all of us know if anybody wants to pull an individual item from the agenda. Now would be the time for board members to raise their hands, if there are any. I'm not encouraging anything, but if there is anybody to pull any items. And I'm not seeing. The agenda does include our 2019-20 actuals for our budget, but I'm not seeing any pulled agendas. Okay, so there right now we have one consent agenda and a calendar for adoption, and I do believe we have one speaker for the consent calendar. Is that right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that is correct. We have one speaker.
Okay, I see Councilmember Mendel from Hayward. You have a question?
No, I was going to make a motion, but I'll wait until after the speaker.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. And I've had another speaker join, so I will call Blair Beekman and Barbara Stebbins. Blair Beekman, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, I'm new, I'm inexperienced to this process, but I've been attending meetings since April now, and I've been really impressed with your public meeting process and how the public can be involved. Thank you for allowing myself to be a part of this process and trying to contribute as much as I can. I'm learning about the ideas of Brilliant 100 and you're going with the Brilliant 100 plan. I think that's an interesting choice, and I thank you for that. With issues of natural gas, San Jose for the past several years has really made an effort to not be a part of natural gas and separate itself from it. I think it gives San Jose then a much better set of choices in how to deal with the upcoming fracking issues of the 2020s. We're trying to slowly set down that, they had a boom for a while. It's time to slowly pull it back. San Jose is in a position to really help out with that and offer good, sound advice how to do that, because they've left natural gas so long ago. So I commend you for your Brilliant 100 ideas. And the fact that it's January 31st, you've updated it is my understanding that once we get everything settled with PG&E by November and early January, then you can continue the Brilliant 100 at the end of January. That's my hopes. And so good luck in those efforts. Good luck in how we talk to the CPUC so they can be convinced of that. And like my initial public comment offered, I know that you have to have a certain amount of patience and politeness, I guess, and how to talk with CPUC and other state energies who are going to want the excess nuclear. And so how we talk to, it has to be a polite conversation, and in those terms, then you can politely bring up how the community is wanting to end, as the concepts of nuclear. How we go about that, we don't quite know yet fully, but we're thinking about it, and that I hope we can work on, and I hope you can be honest and learn to practice how to be more open with us. What exactly is your nuclear trading options and what you're going through with that. And again, thank you that you explained yourselves were basically most of the same patterns as previous years. And that's a lot considering what we've been through. So thank you for all of that. And from that, I just hope we continue our good practices. And what is the goal is to leave nuclear and have renewable energies and be trading, between local communities around the Bay. So good luck on those efforts, and thanks for your work.
Thank you very much. And we have one more.
Yes, Barbara Stebbins.
Welcome.
Yeah, so we just have a clarifying question. This is East Bay Clean Power Alliance has a question about section 1 in the resolution in item 11, which is the Brilliant 100 item. And in section 1, it includes the phrase with renewable energy content equivalent to the current renewable portfolio standard. and with the remaining power being supplied by large hydroelectricity for a total of 100% carbon-free power. Our question is that the current renewable portfolio standard calls for like 37% renewable, I think, I forget, somewhere around there. And we noticed that in 2019, the renewable content of Brilliant 100 was 75%, which is really great. So I wasn't sure, we weren't sure whether or not that phrase indicated that there would be less renewable in Brilliant 100, if it's extended tonight, or if in fact it would remain at about where it's been. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, do you have an answer to that question about the RPSs, and how much the RPS is part of Brilliant 100 with this extension?
At the June meeting, or perhaps it was the May meeting, when the adjustments were made to Brilliant 100, at that time, the board elected to reduce the renewable content of Brilliant 100 to the RPS level, which is 33%. And so that is just that policy decision that was made earlier in the year is just being applied to the 1 month of extension here.
Got it. Okay. And Councilmember Mandel, you had a comment or question?
I'll just move the entire consent calendar.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Seconded by Eric.
Okay. Second, Mayor Berkeley. Okay. Moved in second. I see no more. Hold on a second. I see no more hands raised. Madam Clerk, can we call the roll?
Sure. Albany,
Yes.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Dublin,
Yes.
Fremont,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Livermore,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Piedmont,
Yes.
Pleasanton,
Yes.
San Leandro,
Yes.
Tracy. Tracy has not joined. Union City, Alameda County,
Yep.
Emeryville,
Yes.
Oakland.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the CEO's report, item 14. Nick?
Yeah. So in terms of our subcommittees, we have had a good amount of activity. So we did hold an executive committee meeting in September, which was predominantly focused on a discussion of regulatory and legislative, an update on regulatory and legislative issues, and then a further discussion of Brilliant 100 options. I'll note the October executive committee meeting has been canceled. There was a finance, administration, and procurement subcommittee meeting on October 13th, which was predominantly focused on a review of the draft audit. And then the marketing, regulatory, and legislative subcommittee met on October 1st and received, among other things, an update on regulatory and legislative matters. The next item I did want to, I think there's a presentation. So can you go to the presentation, Stephanie? Thank you. So next slide, please. I did want to give an update on the latest round of grants, COVID relief grants that we have provided. So in this round of grants, we provided, I believe it was $200,000 in total grants. It's not right, I think $300,000 in total grants. Each of the organizations listed here received a $10,000 grant. These are entities that are operating at the front lines across Alameda County and into Tracy, who are serving at-risk communities, particularly communities that are most impacted by COVID-19. Next slide, please. So these are 20 grants. Oh, I guess these are, actually go back to the last slide, I'm sorry. in addition to these grants, actually, let's go to slide 10, please. So in addition to these individual $10,000 grants, which if you go back and take some time on the slides, you'll see really span organizations across the county, east, west, north, south. We did also provide three additional grants that equaled up $100,000 for workforce development. And the three grantees for workforce development, one is Tri-Valley Career Center at Chabot Las Positas Community College. This is a more broad grant to support broader job training. We are having an active dialogue with them, though, around the idea of supporting their green jobs training. Las Positas currently doesn't have an explicit focus on green jobs. But we did provide two other grants really focused on green jobs, one to Grid Alternatives and the other to Cypress Mandela. Grid Alternatives is based I believe in Oakland, while Cypress Mandela is based in Oakland and Union City. And for those two grants, there's going to be also an explicit tie to our Resilient Home program and partnering those two entities with Sunrun to try to source candidates for the solar and storage installations that are happening for our customers. All right. So why don't we go back to the paste. Oh, let's leave the slide. Yep, right here is good. Oh, next one. Next slide, please. There we go. This is a bit of an eye chart here, but I did want to give a preview of our Power Content Label mailer. So this mailer has typically been sent out on October 1st, but this year the California Energy Commission pushed the deadline for the mailer to December 31st. So we're planning to start mailing our Power Content Label in mid-November in an effort to try to get them out after the barrage of mails all of us are receiving related to the election, but before we get into the holiday season. So,
sorry, Nick, I have a question about Power Content. Actually, just about these graphics, if I may. Others may have questions as well. So I see if I'm looking correctly, I see three different sets of pictures on the postcards. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah. So it's yes. Yep. Yep.
Is that just like some people will get one and some people get the other, or there's subsequent mailers?
It's a folding postcard, so you'll actually get all four.
Got it. Okay. Well,
and the email is going to be different. So one is an email, and a significant portion of our customers are going to be getting the email this time around.
Okay. Obviously the part that has all the details of the Power Content and the chart is what we have to send, but just the postcard fronts that I'm looking at, those three sets of photos with some details. I think it'd be great if we all had JPEGs of those, that we could just post around and promote and what we're doing and who we are. And those are nice looking photos with some a little bit of text, and I think that would be helpful for us to have those once this is all public. Is that doable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm done with the CEO report.
Okay, colleagues, any questions about any part of the written or oral presentation for the CEO report? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I do see at least one speaker, Madam Clerk.
Yes, I do. I have Blair Beekman.
Hello. For this item to start with, I think one of the first speakers in public comment, Jaden, I think her name is, she made an important, she's having trouble finding past minutes and past video minutes of EBCE meetings. You have a new web page up, a new public website, and how your web page is presented. For the past 2 months now, since early September, I can't access any meeting minutes for September or October. I've written yourselves a few letters on the subject. I hope you can really work on it, because we really need the information about Brilliant 100 at this time, and how Bright Choice is being left behind, because it uses too much natural gas, basically. I think that's the idea. And, I hope my earlier ideas are in the ballpark of how you're thinking and considering things. I can be a little off. So, but in any event, just to have the meeting minutes available for reference and information, it's important. And it's in, your public meeting process that you have is it's a part of the great system of what, the tradition of what EBCE can be about and where it's come from. And San Jose doesn't have this sort of public meeting process. So if you can make, if you can develop how to make it accessible as possible, that's important, because in all of this, the idea of building community democracy is also a part of the beauty of this plan of community energy, local community energy. And so good luck to all of us. And my work with accountability with technology and how important that is to myself, what that can help develop. And so how these all intermix, we have a beautiful, positive, sustainable future that's possible. And only if they'll just start to listen to us now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is an informational item, so we're going to move to the next item, which is item 15, Community Advisory Committee report. Mary?
So the one thing I wanted to bring out that is kind of broader than any of the other specific items I'll talk to is we did continue to receive comment during our Monday meeting about the nuclear allocation from the public as well as from CAC members. We didn't have it specifically as an agenda item for us because we're going to be talking about it next month as well. But I wanted to actually bring to y'all attention some of the things that were brought up during that meeting on Monday. And we actually received a letter, which I then subsequently asked Stephanie to forward to you. So you should have it by now. It is a letter from the SEIU 1021 that indicates their opposition to any nuclear within the EBCE portfolio. And I think I think you're probably all familiar with SEIU 1021. It has about 15,000 union members in Alameda County per se. The other one from a CAC member really talked about the need for us to have costs associated with the various Brilliant 100 options when it comes back to the CAC as well as the board next month. That would really help the CAC provide you guys with any useful feedback that we hear from that. So we're hoping that that occurs. And then lastly, still with nuclear allocation in this PCIA, there was a question that a couple of CAC members had about clear understanding of whether or not there might be difficulties with accepting this allocation and any future action that EBCE might want to take. And Nick really was on the Monday meeting and he figured that out, got back to us very quickly. And so I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Nick for really providing that clarification very quickly, within a day. So, and for those of you that may not have looked directly at this, the clarification was it really does not have any bearing on what EBCE may choose to challenge in terms of other issues. About the only thing, according to Nick, that we can't argue, EBCE can't argue, is that PG&E didn't offer this power. So that was it from the CAC for this month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions from board members to the CAC chair? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this?
We do. Blair Beekman. Your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thank you. From the meeting Monday night and the questions of Brilliant 100 and getting used to the concepts that we're going to go forward with Brilliant 100 and leave behind Bright Choice and its use of natural gas, 50%, I guess, is the numbers that were given to me, were given in the past. And, you know, there's a real serious issue of how to address fracking in the 2020s and the future of fracking. So, you know, you were in a difficult position and on which to do. Do you help? If you were to be a part of Bright Choice, you would be part of basically the fracking industry and, you know, with the goal of how to step them down and bring them back, you know, and reduce their use in the 2020s. We're going to be doing the same thing with nuclear and with Brilliant 100. I hope that can be the goal in both situations. How do we ask them to step back from what they were previously doing in the past decades? And so we have a real important task, and I want to approach it really, you know, mellow and politely and somberly and all the words, and really just do it well. And so good luck. I feel that's the way that you'll want to be too. And so hopefully we can all be on board and do that. And we're all on board with the questions of nuclear and how do we address nuclear? How do we address our future of nuclear? Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, hold on. Okay, that's no vote for that. So we're going to go on to item 16, employment agreement amendment. And this is just, I believe this is just a formality to adopt something that we already agreed to. Is that right? Who's
Inder?
Inder, are you presenting on this? Who's presenting on this?
Sure, I'd be happy to present on this.
Please.
So you negotiated an agreement with your CEO last year, end of last year. And after a few months, it came to our attention that there was an error in the way that we had characterized the EBCE's contributions to NIC's retirement funds. And so after consulting with Diane Martinez, Director Martinez, who had been the primary negotiator, we determined that the intent all along was for the EBCE to match NIC's contributions to his retirement fund up to a total of 10% of his salary. And so this correction before you today just reflects that change, which we understood was the board's intent all along. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
I think that sounds just right. Okay, colleagues, any questions? I see Al, Mr. Mandel, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'll just move the item.
Item has been moved.
Thank you.
And I'll second Diane Martinez.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez from Emeryville seconding. And I don't see any other hands raised. I don't believe that we have any speakers on this, do we, Madam Clerk? I assume you're muted, I think, Stephanie.
Sorry. Apologies. Blair Beekman has signed up for this
Oh,
item.
okay, all right, let's do it.
Hey, Blair, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thanks. I won't need to be speaking on this item. I put my public comment on many items. I'll try to raise, if I see my blue hand raised, then I'll be ready to speak on the item. We'll work that way if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no more hands raised. We get called to roll on this.
Albany?
Yes.
Berkeley?
Yes.
Dublin?
Yes.
Fremont?
Yes.
Hayward?
Yes.
Newark?
Yes.
Livermore?
Yes.
Piedmont?
Yes.
Pleasanton?
Yes.
San Leandro?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Union City? Alameda County?
Yep.
Emeryville?
Yes.
Oakland?
Yep,
Thank you. Motion passes.
great. Thank you very much. And we are now on item 17, Treasurer's Report.
right. Stephanie, can you pull up the memo item?
And is Howard presenting on this?
Yes.
Excellent.
Stephanie, can you pull that up? Perfect. So item 17 is an informational item. It's our quarterly treasury report that reports on our cash position. All of the information here is provided as of quarter ending September 30th, 2020. I'll just read through quickly our account balances, the cash received into our lockbox by month, loan balances, and then customer delinquency or aging numbers. So in our account balances, I'll round everything to the $1,000. We have 6 accounts all held with the River City Bank. In our internal operating account, we have $375,000. In our operating fund, I'm sorry, was there a statement there? Okay. In our operating fund, we have $38,188,000. In our lockbox, that includes this $4 million reserve. We have $15,878,000. Our operating reserve fund, we have $40,897,000. In our money market account, which is an interest-bearing account, we have $1,001,000. In our insured cash sweep, which is also an interest-bearing account, we have $63,001,000. That totals $159,343,000. In our cash received by in our lockbox, July, we have approximately $45 million. In August, we received approximately $42 million. In September, approximately $46 million for a total of $133 million approximately. Next page, please, Stephanie. We currently have $0 drawn in our Barclays credit facility, so no debt outstanding. And then in our customer delinquency or aging buckets, this is all as of October 14th, 2020, so a little bit more recent than the other balance numbers that I provided. In our 30 to 60 day category, we have $3,960,000. In our 60 to 90 day aging bucket, we have $2,808,000. In our 90 to 120 day balance, we have $1,938,000. And in our 120 plus days bucket, we have $10,066,000. That is it in the treasurer's report. Happy to take any questions.
There we go. Thank you. Questions among board members? Okay, I see none. Do we have any public commenters, Madam Clerk?
We do. I have Blair Beekman and Vaughn. Vaughn, your microphone is unmuted. I'm sorry, Vaughn has, there we go.
Sorry, I want to talk on the next item, not this one. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Blair Beekman, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thank you for the treasurer's report. There was an earlier item that talked about, I think in the CEO report, about funding ideas. And this seems an appropriate time to mention the importance of funding at the state level and the use of the HEROES Act and the CARES Act and how that's really helping us here at the local level. And, you know, with the housing forgiveness issue of AB 3088, that was an item that fell way short of what it was capable of doing, and what people like David Chu and Ash Kalra from San Jose, assembly persons, they were working really hard this summer to, you know, for forgiveness ideas that forgave owners, tenants, small business owners, and their property owners. It was an incredible package, and it brought an incredible way to just kind of unite the community and for the community to feel safe and not threatened. And that got shortchanged a bit. And I've heard that by next year at this time, we're going to be, there's worry of foreclosure, there's worry of depression and recession. And we're going to have to basically expand the ideas of 3088 again. And we're going to have to be thinking in those terms of funding from the HEROES Act and state, mechanisms to help the local level again. And I just wanted to remind ourselves we have to be open and trusting to what, the good work they're doing at the state level that can be of help, and not, we get really cold feet about accepting money and, how we work that out. Good luck to yourselves. As EBCE, you've described, you've taken about an $18 million hit this year. I'm over in the South Bay and the Peninsula. Caltrain has taken a similar $18 million hit. The VTA Public Transit Agency of Santa Clara County, they're taking a similar loss. And so there's a pattern. And it's from that pattern that, we can ask, questions of help and how can we be helped, and what programs we can work on with that significant amount of loss. And we're doing it, and you guys are doing it great. And thank you so much that, I'm still allowed to ask important questions, about nuclear use and how we can limit that and how we can just move forward and progress in our lives as you guys are taking care of, serious work. So I hope you can be open to the good work at the state level that can help us in the next few years, because we're going to really need it. And I just wanted to remind everyone of that at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And this was an informational item, right? That was not an action item, was it? No.
That's
It's
correct.
informational.
Okay, so we'll go on to item 18, which is an action item. Do we have one of our outside auditors here?
For item 18, I think Jason's going to provide some highlights, and then our auditor will also speak to the audit itself.
Great.
Jason.
Hello, good evening, public and board members. So EBCE has completed its annual audit for the fiscal year of 2019-2020, stretching from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. In part of this process, or actually the primary rate of this process, is that EBC hires an independent auditor to verify the annual financial statements. EBCE selected Pacetti and Brinker as our auditor through a formal RFP last year. So this is actually their third year doing our audit, the second year selected through RFP. This year, the audit focuses on the financial activities during the fiscal year, dating from, as I said, July 1, 19 to June 30th, 20. P&B also worked with an ad hoc committee made up of board members throughout the audit process and was assisted by staff. This audit was reviewed in full also by the Finance, Administrative and Procurement Committee on October 13th of this month in draft form. This form that we are presenting today does have the auditor's transmission letter included within it, finalizing the document and the process. Some highlights that are to be found in the document are economic related activities and assumptions, as well as the financial statements, which talk about net position, our revenues, expenses, and changes in that position through the year, cash flows, and accompanying notes on subsequent events. Also in there is the management discussion and analysis on overall authority performance. Now in the memo, there are some documents there are some bullet points that highlight the financial areas. They are number heavy. I'll go through them quickly. In particular, the statement of net position, which acts very similar to a balance sheet in corporate documents, gives our total assets have increased from 151 million to 220 million through the fiscal year. This was primarily as an increase in cash and equivalents and accounts receivable. Of this, 12.7 million was diverted into of these revenues were diverted into the rate stabilization fund as discussed last month. Total liabilities decreased from about 70 million to around 58 million due to the retirement of our outstanding debt with the Barclays facility. We had about 12.5 million going into the year, which we have retired. Total net position increased from 81.4 million to 149.8 million, as driven by the changes mentioned above. And that can be calculated as assets minus liabilities minus the deferred revenue. Then the other highlight on the financial statements is the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. This is very similar to an income statement. Net operating revenue was approximately 463.4 million, and then that's after the 12.7 deferred to the rate stabilization fund. Operating expenses were 395.6 million, with 373.5 of that being specifically in the cost of service or the cost of electricity. Overall, we netted 614,000 from non-operating activities. And this is primarily the difference between the interest that we owed on our debt outstanding and the interest that we earned on our cash in accounts. So overall, the change in net position for the year was 68.4 million, which can be calculated as the operating revenues minus the operating expenses plus any non-operating activities. And with that said, those are the highlights of the financial statements, but we have our auditor here today who will talk more about the process and the findings on a broader scale. And so Brett Bradford, if you are here.
I am here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. So I had about 7 or 8 slides. It's brief. I'll move through at a pace that's respectful of everybody's time. Please feel free to interrupt me if there are any questions whatsoever, though. If you could advance the slide, please. So just as a little background on our firm and who we had working on it, Andrea Lifto was the manager on the engagement. She's on at the meeting here on the call here today. We're working in the CCA space with several CCA clients throughout the state currently, and we've been doing that for about 5 years since the early days. So if you could advance the slide, please, Jason. So I won't bury the lead. I was asked not to do that. The audit was very clean. Things went very smoothly. We don't have any findings to report, and the opinion on the accuracy of the financial statements is clean. This first slide here takes us through a little bit of the relative roles and responsibilities of management and the auditor. Management, of course, is Jason and Howard's team. Management is responsible for preparing the financial statements and establishing a system of internal control. The auditor, we're responsible for auditing the financial statements, and we do that by considering risks of material misstatement in the financial statements, which we call inherent risk, considering internal controls relevant to the financial statements, which we call control risk, and performing tests of year-end balances based on the results of our risk assessment, and evaluating the adequacy of disclosures. If you could advance, please, Jason. Stephanie. The audit is completed this time, and like I said, we've reported an unqualified opinion, which means that based on our audit, the financial statements are materially accurate. That's a good thing, and that's par for the course. In addition to that, we reported no significant deficiencies in internal control. You could advance, please. Next couple slides just take us through our significant areas of focus on the audit. Review policies and procedures for various types of financial transactions. So we look at how East Bay does things. We consider the impact of the current economic climate, and we develop our expectations and conduct our risk assessment. You know, so COVID certainly specifically is impactful. Revenue recognition, that's one of the biggest lines on the financial statements that we take a close look at that. Accounts receivable and accrued revenue, we test a sample of customer billings. We relate total cash received subsequent to year end to revenue and cash received throughout the year. And we do a lot of what we call analytical procedures to round up revenue and AR. Cutoff is also important. We review revenue recognition throughout the year and the method for determining revenue recognition and making sure that accrued revenue is correct at the end of the year. Okay, advance. Cash, that's a large item on the balance sheet where we address that relatively easily through confirmation, which we send directly to the financial institutions. Accrued cost of electricity and accounts receivable. These two items are important. We want to make sure that both the costs and the receivables are cut off correctly and recognized appropriately. We want to make sure that all the costs related to the electricity that's been delivered where revenue has been recognized are complete. Notes payable, confirmation sent directly. Financial statement note disclosures, we want to make sure that those are complete and without bias. You can advance, please. The next few slides are just some required communications that we are required to make to those charged with governance, which is the board of directors. The significant accounting policies adopted by EBCE throughout the periods audited appeared appropriate and consistently applied. That's a good thing. No alternative treatments of accounting principles for material items in the financial statements were discussed with management. There was no opportunity for accounting for things differently that could have materially influenced what the financial statements look like, that is. If you could advance, please. We do not propose any adjustments to the financial statements. This is something to be proud of. This is a good thing. We didn't find any errors that where we would be required to propose an audit adjustment. We did not identify any significant or unusual transactions or applications of accounting principles where a lack of authoritative guidance exists. Advance. And there were no disagreements with management concerning the scope of our audit, the application of accounting principles, or the basis for management's judgments on any significant matters. And we did not encounter any difficulties in dealing with management during the performance of the audit. And that concludes our slides. I'd be happy to address any questions which anybody may have.
Thank you. Councilmember Hernandez from San Leandro.
Thank you, Chair Kalb. I just want to thank our auditors, Brett and Andrea, for this comprehensive work, as well as Jason Bartlett, Howard Chang, as well as the audit ad hoc committee members, Director Hannon and Director Pilch, as well as the Finance Administrative Review Board with Chair Kalb and Chair Mendel. Very comprehensive, very detailed, various meetings, some on Fridays, but overall pretty great and clean, and glad to see this report. And I'd like to be able to move the item to accept the report as is.
Okay, that's a motion. And I
second by Bacon.
That was Vinnie Bacon from Fremont, seconding, Councilmember Bacon. And I see Mary Sutter, our Community Advisory Committee Chair, has a question or comment.
I have a question that is not specific to the audit itself, but the use of the information in here. We now have a total net position of close to 150 million. And can you remind me how far along we are in the process to really have all the metrics in place to provide us with the best kind of credit rating for EBCE? I know that there's various things, but I do know that this bottom line net position is one of them. And I can't remember what number was going to be really what we're targeting.
Sure, I'm happy to speak to that. Obviously, there's a number of criteria that the various rating agencies look into when they evaluate an entity such as EBCE. And one of the metrics that they really focus on is liquidity metrics. And so that's tied to net position, but not exactly the same thing as net position. They really look at your cash and your day's liquidity on hand. So very much so related, but again, not exactly the same thing. I think there's a few things to emphasize. I know that this is a critical priority for the agency and something that we're really focused on trying to accelerate as much as possible. One of the key factors that the credit rating agencies look at is just sort of time of operations. And generally the feedback has been provided that you need 3 full years of operations in order to initiate your credit rating process. process. So I think that's something that we would anticipate in the 2021 sort of mid to end of 2021 timeframe. But liquidity is, of course, the other factor that's really important quantitative measure of creditworthiness. And in this case, our metrics are very strong. One of the things that came out of our FAP subcommittee meeting was to provide a little bit more guidance and direction as to what are our target levels that we want to go hit over the course of the next 1, 2, 3 years. So a time frame with that to provide a little more certainty. And so that was feedback we took back, and we are anticipating bringing something to the FAP meeting first, and then the board meeting after that to review some of those metrics and targets for discussion. What I'll note for right now, without providing a whole lot of certainty there, since we want to go through that evaluation process, is that our metrics are strong. They are in the range of what we've seen with other CCAs that have received investment grade credit ratings. What was really interesting is most recently there was a credit rating for triple CE. The CCA was formerly known as Monterey Bay, and they received a credit rating of single A by S&P. Previously, the ratings were all done by Moody's, and the single rating was done by Fitch. So now we've seen all 3 rating agencies actually complete one for one of the various CCAs. And we started to see a sort of a distribution of credit ratings actually. And with Monterey Bay, I believe having the highest liquidity sort of metrics, we are seeing there's an ability to sort of edge that credit rating higher, whereas previously they had been sort of all clustered around the kind of triple B area. So more to come there. I'd like to provide a little more certainty on that, but what I'll share is that our liquidity metrics are really strong, and I'll provide a little bit more certainty and direction for discussion in the upcoming board meetings on that.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had a motion, and was there a second?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Director Bacon seconded.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Okay, I see no other hands raised. Let's call the roll.
Albany,
Yes.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Dublin,
Yes.
Fremont,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Livermore,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Piedmont,
Yes.
Pleasanton,
Yes.
San Leandro,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Alameda County,
Yes.
Emeryville,
Yep.
Oakland.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
There we go. Now we are at item 19.
Hi, this is Stephanie Tannenhouse. I believe I'm item 19, the Integrated Resource Plan Results Update. Stephanie, would you mind pulling up the slide deck if you have that? Wonderful, thank you. So the goal of today's presentation is to update you on phase 2 of EBCE's Integrated Resource Plan Analysis. So we can go to the next slide. I believe everybody is familiar with the process that we went through at this point, but just a reminder that EBCE took a phased approach to its IRP analysis. The initial phase was completing the CPUC compliance filings, which were filed September 1st. And those explored 2 greenhouse gas targets that were directed by the Commission of EBCE's share of a statewide 46 and 38 million metric ton scenario. Phase 2, which we'll be discussing and focusing on today, is evaluating a more ambitious greenhouse gas target. So we're looking at the lowest end of the range that the CPUC considered. And so that's our share of a 30 million metric ton target. And then we've also been kind of looking beyond that and starting to evaluate some of the trade-offs in achieving a net zero greenhouse gas emissions target as well. So the important thing to highlight is that there were differences between how we were required to complete our CPUC filing and how we chose to complete our EBCE specific analysis. So the result of that is that because some of the assumptions and the underlying methodologies are a little bit different, it's difficult to do a full side-by-side comparison on every possible metric. But to the extent possible, we've made some adjustments to the outputs so that we can kind of look across the board and get a general sense for how those portfolios stack up against one another. Next slide, please. So this is a table that summarizes some of those key metrics across scenarios 1, 2, and 3. So we're moving from kind of the least aggressive CPUC greenhouse gas target to the more aggressive EBCE target on the right. You can see that, as you'd expect, the percent of our energy that's served by carbon-free generation increases as that greenhouse gas target decreases. The RPS is a little bit different in terms of how that's calculated, but essentially in the EBCE case, the upper end of what our RPS generation could be is higher. In all of these, we're meeting our RPS targets, and in the EBCE analysis, we assume that we meet those requirements and kind of leave headroom to go above and beyond that. For the resource mix, the EBCE, what I'll call the EBCE scenario or 30 MMT scenario, includes a higher megawatt of new build. So, there's more new renewables, megawatts of new renewables, and quite a bit more storage in that portfolio than in the CPUC scenarios 1 and 2. Although, one thing to note is that that high amount of storage basically allows us to more effectively use the energy production from the renewable resources in our portfolio relative to the CPUC cases. So, we don't have to curtail as much excess solar generation in the middle of the day because we have a lot more battery capacity to shift that generation into later hours. For risk management, what we're really talking about here is, how much of our portfolio are we locking in to long-term contracts, and then, for the duration of the horizon. So in the CPUC methodology, the way that we approach that analysis, that results in a slightly higher portion of our energy being provided by those long-term contracts relative to EBCE, where we really wanted to, preserve the more optionality, and also the amount of storage again comes into play here, because storage is obviously not actually generating any energy, but it's contributing to the ability to use our clean energy and also provide for reliability. Next slide, please. So the modeling approach at a really high level is the same between the CPUC and EBCE analysis. So it's a two-step approach where the first step is to develop the portfolio of resources that are under long-term contract. And then step 2 is to perform a more detailed hourly modeling called production cost modeling, which is kind of an hour-by-hour simulation of how that portfolio performs. And it also provides much more detailed information on what the actual costs are of our portfolio, what our market exposure looks like, the emissions, those types of metrics. So the key distinction that I'll highlight is just in step 1 for the EBCE portfolio. We worked with a technical consultant that had an optimization tool, and that tool selects like what the optimal mix of resources is to meet our desired long-term contracting needs. So under the CPUC approach, we relied on the system-wide modeling that the CPUC had done, for a larger footprint, and kind of took an implied slice of that portfolio. Whereas for our own analysis, we wanted to see, what would be selected and provide that kind of optimal mix of resources. Next slide. So we applied different constraints to that optimization tool to ensure that the results of that selection, represent a reasonable portfolio of resources given our commercial preferences, existing market dynamics, resource availability, and so on. So this is just a list of those primary constraints that were used. So we made sure that we were meeting all of the requirements that the CPUC has in place around RPS and the amount of RPS that needs to be under long-term contract, our resource adequacy procurement. So those are all additional constraints that are included in the modeling. And then we also have resource-specific constraints that reflect the kind of timeline of availability for certain resources. So we don't assume that long duration storage is viable until kind of mid 2020s. And also, we put in certain annual limits to specific resource types just to make sure that the timing and the pace of development is feasible. Next slide. So this table lays out some of the key differences in the inputs and assumptions between the CPUC and EBCE analysis that again kind of make that apples to apples in comparison a little bit different or a little difficult. But the main thing that I want to highlight here, we did choose to make different load assumptions. So under the CPUC, we are required to use a forecast that the California Energy Commission develops. And that forecast doesn't necessarily take into account all of our organization's specific goals that we have around electrification of transportation, buildings in our area. So for the EBCE analysis, we chose to use a load forecast that includes those organizational targets. That results in a higher load, over the horizon, because on average we're increasing the amount of energy needed because of the increase in electrification. So that actually makes a GHG target kind of more difficult because there's a greater volume of energy. I'll also highlight the resource cost assumptions. The CPUC cost assumptions are pretty out of date at this point, and they also have to rely entirely on public sources of information. So there's quite a lag to them where, for our analysis, we wanted a more realistic and more current assessment of what the costs are for resources. And I guess the last thing I'll mention, risk management. We talked a little bit about this already, but in the CPUC scenarios 1 and 2, the amount of long-term contracts in our portfolio is sort of an output because of how we approached that portfolio development. Whereas in EBCE's scenario 3, we selected the amount of our portfolio that we wanted to be filled by long-term contracts, and that was, and then the resources that make that up were optimized. And then scenario 4, I haven't gotten into too much detail about this, but essentially it's the same. It's building on the same long-term portfolio of scenario 3, but looking at kind of what the incremental requirement would be to actually, go beyond even the 30 MMT target to something that would achieve a net zero emissions over the course of the year. So the next slide, please. This is the results of the optimization. So it shows which new resources were selected in our portfolio. And you can see, so the kind of golden bar is paired solar and storage. So based on the cost trajectories right now for solar and storage, and the fact that storage is, at least for the next few years, eligible for a significant tax reduction if it's paired with solar, that really is kind of the most cost-effective way for us to generate renewable energy and also have that resource adequacy value that we get from storage. We also see quite a significant amount of just standalone storage getting selected. So that's kind of the dark red to that salmon color, and that wedge increases over time. So that energy storage, again, is kind of allowing us to utilize the clean energy that's being generated from our portfolio in an optimal way. And it's also providing additional value in the real-time energy markets because of the ability to arbitrage between high and low prices, as well as resource adequacy value. And then there's a small sliver of hydro. We are not assuming that there will be a lot of hydro available for long-term contracts. In state, likely very little or none. There is out-of-state hydro available, but we wanted to make pretty conservative assumptions in terms of what's available. But if it's there, then the model does want to select that kind of additional greenhouse gas free resource that has kind of a more constant generation profile. And then if we move to the next slide, this is the total portfolio of long-term resources. So the difference here is that are the contracts that EBCE currently has that are going to be coming online over the next several years are also reflected in this graph. So you can see that the amount of wind is a little bit greater because of our existing contract. And one of the things we learned doing some different sensitivities is that wind is kind of the marginal RPS energy generating resource. So if solar and storage costs become more expensive than we expect, or if we limit the amount of solar in our portfolio, then wind is kind of the next step that the model goes to provide that energy. We can move to the next slide. So this is showing our energy position. So the prior charts were on a capacity basis, so that the nameplate capacity of each resource, whereas this is the annual generation provided by the different resource types. So the long-term contracts provide around half of our energy, overall throughout the horizon, but also on an annual basis. And then the remainder of that energy is filled with short-term contracts and market purchases. So that remainder, we determine the composition of that by assuming that we'll procure short-term contracts with RPS resources at least up to the point of meeting our RPS requirements and potentially beyond that. But then the next sliver of those short-term contracts is filled with carbon-free energy purchases, which could also be RPS, up to what's needed to meet the greenhouse gas target. And then the remaining open position is assumed to be met with market purchases, which have a greenhouse gas emissions associated with them, but it's less than 20% of our energy. All right, and then the final slide. So, we've at this point looked across a range of different greenhouse gas targets and the different pathways to meet those. We are continuing to do more work to provide a more comprehensive and kind of comparable way to understand the trade-offs, particularly the cost trade-offs of pursuing those different pathways. Under all of the pathways and in the EBCE's analysis, we are exceeding our RPS requirements. So we're going beyond the amount of long-term RPS that's required under the RPS rules, and we're going well beyond what the implied greenhouse gas target is for EBCE based on what the commission has put forth. So as far as next steps, we'll be completing that analysis and then hope to come back to the board with a set of different options around a 2030 clean energy goal. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation very much. First, to our board members, any questions of Stephanie or staff? Not seeing any hand raised while board members are considering questions. I see we have a couple speakers. Is that right? Commenters?
That is correct. I have Vaughn and Blair Beekman. Vaughn, your microphone is unmuted.
Yeah, my question is, you mentioned probably conservatively so that the long duration storage is put off till 2026, even though there are some companies, Highview Power, with the liquid air that's available now, or at least they have the banking and stuff like that to implement or start implementing now. Also, in your slides, we're on page 7 and 8, where you're talking about 2-hour storage. You're talking about solar plus storage. What's the 2-hour storage if it's not lithium battery type of thing? Also, some of the analysis I've seen is that beyond 2 hours of lithium, you should be going to a long duration storage. Otherwise, you're wasting an awful lot of money, even though supposedly 2 years from now, the battery prices will drop again. The size of the batteries and the price will drop. So that might change. The other thing is I don't see anything related to blue hydrogen, which could be a transportation issue. And it also could be used for fuel cell peakers to replace natural gas ones, even though PG&E's got a lot of natural gas ones that they've been funding for years. And it's not economical to turn them off unless they're completely depleted or out of date. My big question is the long-term duration, and what are you going to be using 2-hour storage for if it's not part of the solar storage increment in those graphs? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great question. So, you're right. I believe there is some long duration storage available in the market today. I think from what we've seen, for it's not really as cost competitive yet, but it certainly is expected to become more cost competitive. On the 2 and 4 hour duration, it's actually more economic. You have batteries have a capacity, so megawatts associated with them, and then the duration is their ability to store energy. And it's right now, it's actually more expensive to extend that duration than it is to like increase the capacity. And so what that means is if you're, if you have standalone 2-hour storage available, that actually is quite economic to have in your portfolio, particularly when you have, that when load has a relatively short peak. I think what we all sort of expect to happen is that as more and more storage comes online, that the peak kind of will begin to flatten. So 2 hours is likely not as effective as meeting the load after the sun has set and solar has stopped generating. We assume that all of the paired solar and storage is paired with 4-hour storage, because that's kind of what we're seeing most of being offered right now, and a lot of that has to do with the resource adequacy program rules currently provide 4-hour storage with full RA value. So and because the tax credit applies to paired storage, if it's paired with the renewable, then that kind of solar plus 4 hours is really the primary product that's out there. So the storage here is lithium. That's what we have the best sense for the cost trajectories, what they'll look like. But you're certainly right that there are other technologies that are emerging. We did not look at hydrogen in this analysis, but I agree that it has potential and could potentially become more commercially viable.
Thank you. And one more speaker, is that right?
Blair Beekman.
Hi, this was really an important item to myself. Thank you. I learned a lot. I know that in San Jose, they just have been working on a substation to convert a substation into a solar storage facility that was owned by PG&E. It's a deal with PG&E, and I think they're calling it Hummingbird Energy. I don't know if that's another company involved with the process. It was originally powered by natural gas, and that's what I was reporting to yourselves before. I think they want to convert it somehow, and I think that's the goal and the intention. It's something to look into. It's work with PG&E itself, which offers many choices how to think of the issue. And this was an important item to learn about. The final graph that you showed, I have to I'm totally new at these things. I have to re-understand why it took a dip in the middle and how it rose back up at the end. I will look over that and be able to offer my ideas about that by next month. You took your time to offer EBC ideas of what could be possible in storage ideas, and it shows your care, and it shows you're really thinking and working on these issues that as well. And solar is obviously really important, and so thank you for your patience with my harping, and it's nice work. And what the person, Vaughn, who spoke earlier, he introduced the idea, he spoke a few months ago about long-term storage compared to short-term. And that was kind of explained a bit tonight. 4 hours seems to be an important number at this time. It's a learning process for me. I guess my final question, will the EBCE be taking a proactive role to ask for mining practices of, say, lithium to be, good human rights standards and good workers' rights standards? I think that should be a understanding how EBC can work and what they can ask for as well. Good luck with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to provide some additional clarification, I should have mentioned this on that energy graph. So the commenter was very astute. There is kind of a dip. That's because we have some existing short-term contracts that will be expiring in kind of the early 2020s. That's what you see there. That's that peak.
Thank you. And I have one more caller, Alita Dupree.
Thank you, Chair Dan Calvin, members, Alita Dupree for the record. This is very important. Resource adequacy, IRP, the importance of which can never be understated. And I advocate for the highest renewable and carbon-free, not nuclear scenario that we can get. If we can get to 100%, I want to see that. So storage is essential for that, both in long and short term. We both have to look at the megawatts, which we can push out to the grid, and also the total megawatt hours that we can store in the battery. And the rate that we charge and discharge those batteries affects the time frames involved. So obviously we have to consider cycling of batteries, because if we cycle them more often, they tend to wear out more quickly. So I would certainly advocate for storage systems in which the draw or the demand placed upon those batteries is relatively low compared to the total storage capacity of the batteries. So storage is very, very important because we want to catch the opportunities of very low cost or even negative priced electricity that would otherwise go to waste, especially in the spring and the fall, when demand is fairly low, but yet the sun is shining very brightly. Certainly I advocate for both utility scale solar and wind. Wind, it looks to me like, tends to blow more at nighttime. So we want to be able to capture some of that nighttime energy. I recognize that hydro seems fairly limited, whether we import it from out of state or not. I don't know if we can buy pure hydro from out of state or if that product is undefined. But even if we could, there is transmission capacity limited coming in from the outside of the state. So we want to be as local and regional as we can with developing our solar, wind, and storage so we can be adequately prepared to offer the lowest priced and cleanest electricity to our customers. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other speakers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate all the work you're doing. We always appreciate, you don't always hear from us, but we appreciate all the work that our staff is doing. We know Nick doesn't do it all, even though he's a good leader. We know there's a tremendous amount of staff that's doing a tremendous amount of work, and we really appreciate it. I don't know if our customers know about all that work, but we on the board know a lot of it, and we thank you for that. This is an informational item, is that correct? Yes. So we're going to go to the next item, and that would be item 20. And let's see, what are we doing on that?
That's Febby.
Febby, are you here?
Wait just a moment. I need to promote her from.
Oh.
Okay, wait just a moment. I'll refresh this for Febby.
Hello,
There
do
you
you see me?
Yes.
Yes, we
There.
do.
Okay, and hear me all right? Perfect. Good to see you all. Could I also promote Kelly Brezovic? as well, Senior Manager of Account Services. Is that possible, Stephanie?
Yes, let me find her on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Kelly's been promoted.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and jump right into the item here, item 20, CPUC Arrearage Management Program Implementation Plan. Before I get right into it, I'd like to first introduce myself. My name is Febi Bodiarto. I'm a regulatory analyst at EBCE and supporting EBCE's public policy team. My colleague Kelly is also online. She is the Senior Manager of Account Services and will help me today answer any questions as this relates to customer impact, billing, and operations. And so really the goal here for this evening and for this particular presentation is to provide more information to the board about the Arrearage Management Program, also known as AMP, and to offer a recommendation to the board to participate in the program, provided that the CPUC provides direction around a socialized cost recovery mechanism. And on behalf of EBCE, I've been managing this case, particularly CPUC's decision 2006003. This really is focused on reducing residential disconnections due to non-payment of electrical services. This is also known as the disconnection decision. Stephanie, if we can move on to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So here is the program eligibility and program overview of the Arrearage Management Plan. I'm actually going to flip-flop the columns here and go with the program overview first. So because this is a statewide effort, there are eligibility requirements and program overview details that are already set in place. So I'll go with the program overview details. The AMP program means that it is a 12-month payment plan. And when a customer makes a monthly on-time payment plan, a 12th of their arrearage is forgiven. After 12 on-time monthly payment plans, the individual's debt is fully forgiven. So an example of this is if a customer has a $12,000 debt within a year, an arrearage of $12,000 in a year, and the individual makes a monthly on-time payment, each month $100 of their arrearage will be forgiven. And that means by the end of the 12-month plan, their entire debt will be forgiven. Some things to note here is that customers can miss 2 non-sequential payments. So let's say a customer misses a February payment and a November payment, they can still participate in AMP. The thing to note here is that if a customer does miss a payment in a month, that they need to make that up in the next month, and they need to make up the payment from the prior month in addition to the current bill amount. And then something to note as well is that we anticipate PG&E's customers to start, or PG&E to start program enrollment very soon, in just a couple of weeks in November, specifically November 11th. So who participates or is eligible for the AMP? So the first thing to note here is that EBCE customers who are enrolled in CareFera are, as many of you know, is a financial assistance program in the state of California. They must be enrolled in CareFera in order to be eligible for AMP. A customer must be a PG&E electric distribution customer for a minimum of 6 months and must make at least 1 on-time payment within the past 2 years. The important thing here is that the customer has an account balance of at least $500 or more in arrears. And this includes both generation delivery and then also includes the electric and the natural gas side. So $500 or more in arrearage. PG&E provided a proposal to East Bay Community Energy, in which I will share on the next slide in just a moment, and anticipates that about 5,000 to 6,000 customers in EBCE service area would be eligible for AMP. We anticipate that this number is going to increase or grow due to the financial constraints and hardships people are experiencing at this time. And then we can move on to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So here we have a table proposed. PG&E provided this table to CalCCA, the Utility Reform Network, and the IOUs at an AMP working group meeting. And in this table, you can see the estimated eligibility, the number of eligible customers in EBCE service area, which is 5,804. Again, we anticipate that number may increase. The total eligible debt balance is $3.4 million if all, this includes all eligible customers. And I'd like to note these 3 different scenarios related to estimated AMP debt recovery. So if you look at this first one here, 30% of eligible customers participate. If 30% of eligible customers in EBCE service area participates, and 50% of those customers complete the AMP, about $500,000 of customer debt will have to be forgiven. And of course, this number increases if the percentage of eligible customers' participation increases. So here are scenarios for 30% of participation, 50 and 70%. I'd like to also note at this time that compared to other CCAs, so this is just looking at EBCE's information, we also saw the numbers for other CCAs such as Clean Power SF, PCE, Peninsula Clean Energy. And compared to the other CCAs in PG&E service area, EBCE has the highest number of customers eligible for AMP. MCE is a close second. And this is particularly important because I will also describe cost recovery in the next slide. But this is particularly important because we do not have any commissioner guidance around cost recovery mechanism in which this program will run through. If we have no commissioner guidance, it is very possible and likely that those costs will have to be tracked and forgiven by EBCE, in which we will have to carry disproportionate costs of forgiven debt compared to other CCAs, potentially impacting our customers and programs. So we can move on to the discussion piece. Before I dive into the discussion section, I can go into our recommendation. So EBCE staff here is recommending to the board approval of the CPUC approved AMP program, that we can participate in the program, provided that CPUC provides guidance around a cost recovery approach mechanism like the public purpose programs charge, also known as PPPC, or a similar socialized charge levied on the distribution side of the bill. We have been advocating for this in the AMP working groups that I've mentioned before, particularly because this program has a little bit of an essence similar to other programs such as FARA, the Financial Assistance Program, and the CPUC's Green Tariff programs such as DAC-GT and CSGT. And these programs also run through a socialized recovery mechanism. They run through PPPC, the Public Purpose Programs charge. So going into the discussion piece of this, PG&E filed an advice letter mentioning 2 important components. The first here is that the debt forgiven and tracking of this program will fall on CCAs, EBCE, unless the commission provides further guidance. So this means that the cost recovery mechanism is unknown at this time, and hence EBCE staff proposing this recommendation. And 2, which gets a little bit tricky here, PG&E is requesting that CCs inform IOUs of their intent to participate in the program by this Friday, October 23rd. I would like to note though, there's a little bit of an update here. CalCCA met with Energy Division yesterday, letting them know that PG&E is putting us in a tricky spot, not knowing the cost recovery mechanism, but in anticipating a response from us. And the Energy Division came back mentioning that they will provide a draft resolution in the coming weeks. So the draft resolution will provide some more clarity around the cost recovery mechanism. So there's a little bit of a time window there. Additionally, it's important that we bring this up in this board meeting now, as opposed to waiting for the CPUC to approve a cost recovery mechanism in favor of socializing cost recovery due to a streamlined participation process. So when we hear back from the commission related to cost recovery, we can immediately inform PG&E with, of course, from the guidance of the board here, as soon as possible. And within 45 days of notifying PG&E, EBCE customers could begin seeing the benefits on their bill and be receiving those benefits through AMP. So we are presenting this to the board today so that we can take a proactive approach once we hear back from the commission. And that's all I have for this evening. I'm happy to take any questions. And Kelly, if I missed anything or if you want to provide some more insight, we could do this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And this is an action item, is that right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. First, I'm going to go to our board members if there are any questions. I see Councilmember Hannan from Newark.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Cow. Just a clarifying question, if I may. You mentioned CARE and FERA, F-E-R-A. And I don't know, do undocumented immigrants qualify for those programs, which would allow them then to participate in this program?
I'll take that one. That's a great question. Thanks for asking. So the application process for CARE and FERA does allow people to indicate if they participate in another state or federal program. So if someone is already on WIC, for example, for food assistance, then they could qualify for CARE or FERA. I'm using that as an example without knowing the full details of that program either. There may be someone else here who's more versed in those programs, but there isn't a limitation that I am aware of. There isn't a citizenship question, for example.
Thank you. As we do the outreach for this program, I'll assume for a moment that our undocumented residents would qualify. Please do your best to ensure that we get the information out in multiple languages if possible. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
Yes, I have Blair Beekman. Blair, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Kind of like with the Treasurer's report a little earlier, thank you for the subsidy program. It'll play an important factor in your Brilliant 100 decision making, and just that we have good subsidy practices. It's important, and so thanks for your efforts with this item.
Thank you. There are no other speakers.
Do we have one more speaker?
Thank you. Let's see. Yes, I have Jessica Thovad.
Great.
Hey, Jessica, your microphone is unmuted.
Thank you. Jessica Thovad on behalf of East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And our position is, well, first and foremost, I want to say that this program is definitely not ideal. And if it wasn't obvious, what they're saying is if you have COVID debt, you actually would have to make payments for the next 12 months on time and in their entirety in order to be eligible for that forgiveness. And the situation that we're currently in, just to note that folks have been in utility debt prior to COVID-19. And the pandemic has actually worsened that scenario. Electricity, gas is just one of many bills that people have to pay at this time. So there's like an assumption that perhaps you're back to work and able to pay your debt every month on time. So it's really, it feels kind of like it really exacerbates kind of the whole, the poor pay more. So people who aren't actually really hurting will actually have debt relief compared to people who are in worse situations. So our position is to ask the East Bay Community Energy Board to actually do more than this CPUC program. We really would like to see a program similar to SMUDS, where you're actually creating a fund to prevent shutoffs for folks that really aren't unable to pay their utility bills. And I really would like to hear from East Bay Community Energy staff more creative ways, programs, you know, what's out there, what precedents exist that are working, what other ideas do we have, because this situation is very dire for people, and we are again facing like an unprecedented amount of debt as a result of the pandemic, and who knows what other crises we're about to face, considering the context of our situation. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's see, those are the speakers. Any more questions, panelists, board members? Do we have a motion to adopt this item as recommended? Mary, did you have a comment? Mary Sutter?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, this was an item that the CAC did talk about on Monday, and the CAC actually supports the resolution to participate in the plan. But echoing a bit about what Jessica said, it feels like other customer protections would be useful to add as well, in addition to this. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see who has a hand raised. Councilmember Mendel.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I do appreciate the comments from Jessica and the Clean Power Alliance. I think that, you know, this is not the end of our collections process and figuring out how to deal with the unpaid bills that have accumulated. But I think this is a valid piece of it. And even if it just allows, as Jessica pointed out, even if what she said is accurate and it only allows people who are able to sort of recover and pay their bills to pay them with a little bit of forgiveness, that will still shrink the overall amount of unpaid bills that we then need to focus on with potentially other programs. So this feels to me like a piece of the puzzle, and we need to start figuring out how to bring that unpaid uncollected bills amount down, either through collections or potentially forgiveness for some, you know, certain classifications of customers. So with that comment, I'm happy to move the staff recommendation.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was that seconding?
Penton.
Mr. Penton, Councilmember Penton from Pleasanton. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I see no more hands raised. Madam Clerk, you could call the roll.
Certainly, I apologize. I do see Cynthia Landry has raised her hand.
No, thanks.
You mean on the
For public comment.
Okay, let's take her. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to highlight what Jessica said. In my county job, I work as a social worker with the homeless and the public assistance units. And I also think that it's sometimes hard for folks to make up that missed payment if they miss during that 12-month period to make up the difference, the additional payment. It's probably even hard for people that are working now to do that. So I just, I know the program is the program, but I'd like for us to look at forgiveness and other arrangements in light of COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We can call the roll.
Albany,
Yes.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Dublin,
Yes.
Fremont,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Livermore,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Piedmont,
Yes.
Pleasanton,
Yes.
San Leandro,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Alameda County,
Yes.
Emeryville,
Yes.
Oakland.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes.
great. Thank you so much. And thank you to our staff again for your work in preparing this for us. Okay, so now we are moving to item 21, I believe. This one we'll have some discussion, of course. And
I'm gonna.
Nick, who's making the presentation on this?
Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes.
Can I respectfully ask that we do this one last? And the reason I'm asking that is the Board of Supervisors is very involved in this right now. And there's a lot of controversy. And quite frankly, I don't feel comfortable as a member of the board being on this discussion. And the public that I know is opposed or supporting it in my community doesn't know that I'm on this call talking about this. So I would prefer to recuse myself. And I actually think Vinnie Bacon should also, because he may have to vote on this at some point, but that's his choice. But if we could do this at the end, then I can just drop off the call.
I have no objection to taking item 22 before 21, unless anybody has an objection to that. I'll give you a couple of seconds to let me know. I don't see that. So we will now, to the staff and the public, we will take item 22, finish that item, and then we'll go back to 21. 22 is the CAC process and action item. And I know Mary would have some comments about this, but Nick, who on the staff is presenting this?
I will be presenting this.
Okay, we're all set.
So this item would adopt a set of changes to the CAC guide and appointment process. There are 6 proposed changes. The first is to include an allocation of CAC seats to specific regions in the EBC service area. The second would be to assign seats on the CAC to these planning areas. The third would be to expand the committee from the current 9 members to 12 members. The fourth would be to assign 1 alternate to each planning area. The fifth would be to shorten the appointment terms to 2 years from their current, some seats are 2 and some are 4, but maintain the current maximum of 8 years on the CAC. And the sixth would be to request the mayor's conference to appoint the 2 at-large seats.
Oh, some young future ratepayer is having some comments here on this.
Exactly. So those are the 5 recommendations, 6 recommendations. Can we go to the next page, please? Okay. So I think the best way to understand the allocation, both of the seats and the areas, is with this first table. So the proposal is to create 5 planning areas: the north part of the county, the east part of the county, the south part of the county, central county, and then San Joaquin County, which is currently Tracy. You see the JPA vote share, and we've set the allocation largely based on the JPA vote share, but recognizing that San Joaquin County and Tracy are quite distinct from the four Alameda County planning areas. The recommendation is to give San Joaquin County its own standalone CAC seat, even though the vote share may not necessarily support that. And then, sorry.
All right.
No apologies needed, Nick.
1 minute here. Sorry, my wife is not here right now, so I have my daughter and my dog. So the apportionment of the 12 seats is largely based on the JPA vote share across these areas, but with San Joaquin County being given 1 seat. And then there's also the creation of 2 at-large seats that can be represented by residents of any part of the service territory. The table below that, just as an illustration of the current CAC seat allocation. So you'll see the North Planning area currently has 3 CAC members, so they're fully allocated, whereas East County does not have CAC representation, and South County only has 1 of the 3 seats. So what we're proposing here is a quite significant increase in CAC representation. And so that's, I think, the crux of the matter. That the movement from 4 years to 2 years is really meant to make sure that as members of the CAC, if they say happen to move out of Fremont to say Oakland, by the end of that 2-year term, that seat may be reallocated back to Fremont, because they were appointed based on the fact that, among other things, that they were residents of the South area. One thing that did come up at the CAC meeting and in public comment at our executive committee meeting was there's a whole other set of factors that have been used in the past to determine the appointment of the CAC, things related to representation of disadvantaged communities, representation of labor unions or environmental groups, and nothing in here would change those factors that are currently used by the board to evaluate candidates. We're just allocating specific so I think that actually sort of more or less
Hey, Nick, someday you'll wish she will talk to you.
Yes, I know. It's wonderful to have her here, but so I think that actually covers it. It really is, the core of it is expanding the CAC from 9 to 12, creating these new alternate seats as well. So what that effectively leaves us at is we have quite a task in front of us to go and recruit new CAC members, and we're going to be very much reliant on you board members to help attract candidates from your communities.
Okay, thank you. Mary, did you have a comment?
Yeah, the CAC was very excited to see this come into play. We support the proposal as it's written. I think that one of the indications, or one of the things that Nick mentioned, was about the types of diversity, and the CAC wants to make sure that this is really remains top of mind. In the CAC annotation document that you were sent, you will see kind of a list of various organizations that it would be great to have people perhaps represent. Things like disability justice is one of the newer ones, renewable energy activists perhaps, as well as folks that are diverse in terms of ethnicity. We're talking about geographic location here. The other thing to point your attention to in that document are the stakeholder categories that are currently in the current application process, an application document. That application document is going to need to be updated anyway. And so not for tonight, because I don't think that's part of this discussion, but if the board wants to add more categories in that area, there's this other, but it may be that some of the organization or interest groups that are listed above that table might be useful ones to add. And so I wanted to point that out to you. The other thing that is a little bit more specific to this document is there was discussion about making the CAC an uneven number. Right now we have 12. Chair would be able to break a tie. That is something to consider. I'm not sure where that third person would go in terms of how you've allocated it. And the other is not related to this particular proposal, but really to try and ensure that this process of, as Nick said, it's going to take a lot of outreach by the board to get folks to represent your area. And it would be really useful to make sure that a process is put in place so you know how many folks in your area actually applied and whether or not that person was accepted. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Councilmember Pilch from Albany.
Yes, hi. So 2 questions and then a possible suggestion. Is it possible, staff, to put in the PG&E bill any mention of the vacancies on the community board, or are we allowed any communication like that in the PG&E bill?
We are not, unfortunately. Now, we do have a fairly extensive customer email lists, so certainly we could consider sending. But something like this can sometimes be viewed a bit as spam, even though once you sort of dig a layer deeper and you realize, oh, they really are asking for something. So I think let's certainly evaluate a mass form of communication, but I do generally think that our best strategy is really going to be partnering with our cities, partnering with you, Nick, and partnering with our other board members to identify, community members, especially as we're trying to really be inclusive of lots of different groups. You have a better sense, all of you have a better sense of where we should start with that outreach. But certainly, Nick, we will look into kind of a form of mass communication.
Yeah, and communication just to the board members as well, that there are openings and that we should, beat the bushes is a great thing too. And then if I understand it, the 2 at-large seats you're suggesting to be filled by vacancies selected by the mayor's conference. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I know that sometimes the mayor's conference appointments can go unfilled for a while. And so one suggestion to perhaps tackle that and to make the number odd instead of even is to just have 1 at-large mayor's conference appointment. So I'll just leave that there. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking for other Supervisor Haggerty.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we put a lot of work into this. I think what we brought forward is sound. I'm flattered by the fact that the CAC likes it, and I would like to move the item.
Okay, that's moved by Supervisor Haggerty.
I will second it, Councilmember Mendel.
Councilmember Mendel from Hayward. And
yes.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I wouldn't mind speaking to it briefly if I could.
Oh, go ahead, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I agree with Supervisor Haggerty that there were a lot of different drafts of this that were kicked around. I really appreciate the time and effort that Nick and his team put into it, the executive team, the executive committee. also reviewed it and had a lot of suggestions. And I think what we've come to is a really good compromise. It's not perfect, but I think it's as close as you can get. And I'm really hoping that it gets supported. On the even number, you know, the CAC is not a deciding body, and so a tie is not disastrous. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not disastrous. And I think sometimes coming out saying, hey, it was evenly divided 6-6 can be valuable too. So ultimately the final decision comes with this body, where we do fortunately have an odd number. So I'm not terribly concerned about the even number. Open to changing it, but I'm not terribly concerned about it. So thank you all for your work on it.
Okay, so we just heard that we are all an odd number here. Thank you very much, Councilmember. I do have a quick, let's see, who else? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say real quickly that I'll be supporting this item. It has been properly vetted at Executive Board, and I'm glad to see that the CAC supports it as well. And I just wanted to ask Supervisor Haggerty, don't leave after we take this vote, because I'm going to ask that we bring one item back just for a quick cleanup change. It shouldn't take long.
Okay.
Anything for you, Diane?
Okay, I see. Am I seeing Director Pilch? Did you have another comment, or is that just left over?
Yeah, just a quick follow up. Yeah, I just did want to say that I thought it was a good proposal, and doing the geographic areas was a great idea, and I do support including the language that we encourage people from the various types of groups, from alternative energy, labor, et cetera. I do also support keeping that in all communications and in the application as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That was one of my 2 comments I was going to make. Appreciate that, Councilmember Pilch. That what we're doing here is all good. The desire, as we were able to achieve from the beginning, to make sure we have a range of people with backgrounds, both demographic characteristics and issue involvement, even a few experts here and there, I think is very, very important to have on our community advisory committee. So let's make sure it becomes all that much harder to get these seats filled, but it's very important that we have the right combination of people in addition to the geographic distribution. One question I had, this is a broader question, but it seems to be highlighted when I'm looking at this. Nick, on the chart where it says 30% of the vote share for the North and 27% for South, as a comparison, if we were to do just by population, wouldn't it be a bigger differential? Do you know that?
I don't know it. It might be, but these are the vote share is based on energy consumption.
Right.
So energy consumption is a proxy for revenue to the agency.
Right. So if people, because it's hotter, let's say it's hotter down in the South County and they have to run their air conditioner more often because it's hotter, therefore they use more, therefore they would get more weighted vote in those rare instances. Is that essentially what we're saying?
Well, that's how the JPA is structured.
Right. No, I'm just want to acknowledge that publicly. I understand that. Okay. So maybe some number of years in the future, we will look at that, but we should be encouraging efficiency, and I'm not sure this vote share way we have it is the way to do that, but or is doing that now, but that's a discussion for a few years from now, not right now. So we have a motion and a second on the table. I see no more hands raised, so let's call the roll.
Thank you, Albany.
I'm sorry, a point of order, Mr. Chair, I apologize. Did you want to invite public comment on the item? I don't know if anyone signed up to speak.
Did we have that already?
We have no one signed up for this item.
Oh,
okay. My apologies, Mr. Chair.
No, that's right. No problem. Okay.
Thank you, Albany.
Albany is yes. Yes.
Berkeley.
Yes.
Dublin.
Yes.
Fremont.
Yes.
Hayward.
Yes.
Livermore.
Yes.
Newark.
Yes.
Piedmont.
Yes.
Pleasanton.
Yes.
San Leandro.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Alameda County.
Yes.
Emeryville,
Yes, Scotto, get off the call.
Oakland.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez, you wanted to bring back an item? Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, I need to move that we reconsider our action on item 16. It's been brought to my attention that the amendment that was in our packet was not the latest draft. There is a small difference, and Stephanie, I believe that you have the correct draft that you can post for everyone to see. This change does not make any material changes to the negotiation that we had with Nick. It simply makes a clarification. He's currently limited by the 401k plan that the EBCE is using at the moment. So he's limited in his contributions as a percentage of his salary to that plan. We are not limited. So we just need to take out all of the language that refers to matching, because we may be contributing a little bit more than he is with the current plan that he's on now. So this has been through Nick, through Inger, and myself, and we apologize that the correct draft was not the attachment to tonight's agenda. So if anyone has any questions, I think Inder's still on the call, but Nick is here as well. But this comports with board direction. I went through all of my notes, and this is completely what we wanted.
Okay, Inder, since we voted on this, do we have to first vote to undo that and then vote to redo it? Is that the appropriate protocol?
That's correct, Chair. I believe you should handle this with a motion to reconsider the item. So that motion needs to be made by somebody who voted originally in favor of it. And if the board is willing to reconsider this, then you can adopt the revised agreement. And my apologies for all of the confusion. I feel like this agreement has gremlins in it or something at this point. So hopefully this is the last iteration you will be seeing.
Okay, so Vice Chair Martinez is making the motion to reconsider. Who wants the second?
I'll second.
Second.
Who was that? Vinny? I think Councilmember Bacon of Fremont seconded that. So is there anybody who needs to comment on the reconsideration? I don't see anybody raising their hand. So we're gonna call the roll on the reconsideration first.
Okay. Albany,
Yes.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Dublin,
Yes.
Fremont,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Livermore,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Piedmont,
Yes.
Pleasanton,
What? Yes.
San Leandro,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Alameda County,
Yep.
Emeryville,
Yes.
Oakland.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, so now, as of right now, you got nothing, Nick. Okay. Now,
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may, I'd like to move the Fourth Amendment to the employment agreement between East Bay Community Energy and Authority and Nicholas Chassett as it stands, with the changes removing in under section 1 sub 1, removing all references to matching that's it. Matching by the employer.
Second.
It's been seconded by Supervisor Haggerty. Inder, is that adequate the way it was presented? Or we need to actually read it into the record since it's not in advance here? I just want to make sure we're covering ourselves.
That's fine. This is just a motion to approve a contract. So we don't have any full title or anything like that.
Got it. Okay. I see no other hands raised. I see no hands raised in public comment. Okay, so we could call the roll on this motion. Thank you.
Albany,
Yes.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Dublin,
Yes.
Fremont,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Livermore,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Piedmont,
Yes.
Pleasanton,
Yes.
San Leandro,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Alameda County,
Yep.
Emeryville,
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Oakland.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we move to item 21, since at least one member will be leaving in a second, does that member, Supervisor Haggerty, have any announcements, board announcements you'd like to share before you step off?
Good night.
Good night. Okay.
I will, Chair Cobb, if I could,
Yes,
I will go
Councilmember
ahead.
Bacon.
Out of abundance of caution, I will go ahead and recuse myself. So, and with that, I guess I'm going to say good night as well. So.
Okay, thank you and good luck to you. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to ask staff to present item 21.
Great. Good evening. I will try to be brief with this presentation since I know that there are a number of interested parties on this particular topic. Item number 21 is an informational item about Aramis Solar and Storage Project. I'll introduce really quickly. There are a few members of the Intersect Power team that are in attendance here. One of whom is the lead developer on this project, Marissa Mitchell. So she is available to take question and comment during the discussion period once we get there, but just wanted to state that there are a few folks from that team that are present. So let me present a bit on Intersect Power, what the project is, and what the proposed project or contract is that we're currently in negotiations on, and then also hand it to Nick to make some comment as well. So if you can go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. So Intersect Power is a clean infrastructure company based in the Bay Area. They primarily focus on development of solar and solar plus storage assets. Excuse me. The team is mostly based in the Bay Area, and they've been
Ouch. Go on.
Let's make sure everybody mutes while we're getting a presentation.
Intersect has developed approximately a 1.7 gigawatt portfolio of utility scale projects, and this is across 5 different sites in California as well as Texas, and they're beginning construction on some of that portfolio here in early 2020. They also have a pipeline of development assets of about 3 gigawatts across California and Texas that they are continuing to work on. This is, of course, one of the projects that would be included in that portfolio. And overall, excuse me, overall, the Intersect team has quite a bit of experience developing projects historically, having done so on over 60 projects and 3.7 gigawatts of solar assets. So a team that has experience. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So a little bit more on the project itself. What is being proposed is a 100 megawatt solar plus 100 megawatt storage, battery storage, anticipated to be lithium ion with a 4-hour duration. The project is based in North Livermore County, specifically at the intersection of North Livermore Avenue and Manning Road. It is one of the few sort of large scale utility scale projects in Alameda County itself, certainly the largest that we have looked at and considered. The anticipated operational date is at the end of 2023, so we're about 3 years out from that. And we have been in discussions with them and currently negotiating and has gone very positively on a 10-year, 20 megawatt local Greater Bay Area resource adequacy contract with them. Obviously, a number of energy products can be delivered from a project of this size, including both energy and resource adequacy. And what we're contracting or proposing a contract for is specifically focused on resource adequacy, given its local nature and that it can provide local Greater Bay Area resource adequacy specifically. It's noted that the contract size is 20 megawatts, but it does fluctuate a little bit under 20 megawatts or over 20 megawatts, just depending on the time of year, and that is due to the nature of solar and storage and what a project like this can sort of consistently provide. The other portion, a significant portion of the offtake, is anticipated to be another CCA in the Bay Area as well. Not stating it here publicly since they are also in active discussions, but wanted to flag that it is another CCA. Next slide, please. Thank you. This project, there is a little bit of a typo here. It's estimated instead of 300 jobs, it's actually closer to 400 jobs that would be created during the construction phase. All of the wages are at prevailing wage, and their goal is to hire 100% of those jobs from Alameda County. They have executed project labor agreements. That was back in January 2018 with 5 of the local construction crafts. and we know that that's always been a big focus for how we've prioritized projects and construction is working with the local unions. Importantly, the project is currently seeking permitting approvals. Obviously, that is for the reason for Director Haggerty recusing himself. They are anticipating going for approval in the fall-winter timeframe, so in relatively short order. And we are hoping EBC is intending to bring forward a project for formal approval of this contract in the November meeting. Obviously, we'll see how conversation goes and want to get that dialogue. Lastly, I'll state the project, the developers have received support letters from a number of organizations that we've listed here, including Sierra Club, IBEW, the Livermore Valley Chamber of Commerce, East Bay Leadership Council. And you can see, just very roughly where the project is generally located. Obviously, important to acknowledge. I think there will be, some important public comment for this item. As with many larger sort of infrastructure type projects, there are concerns to address with local residents, et cetera. And so we'll of course have that open dialogue. I do want to note, with that said, that Intersect has taken a number of steps to promote and support local activities through some sizable donations to local organizations based in Alameda County, and they have designed this project in an environmentally responsible manner, including things like vegetative screening, pollinator habitat, raptor habitat enhancement, sheep grazing, things of that nature, and of course all of the many environmental requirements that are necessary for permitting approvals. With that said, I think, Nick, you had some comments that you wanted to make as well before we turn it over.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. The main other comments I just wanted to make about this project are that not only do we view this project as a source of local clean energy, which obviously is a major priority of ours as a community choice energy agency, but one of the things that I've noted that is particularly interesting and compelling about this project is the fact that Intersect is working with multiple Alameda County-based vendors. As an example, and we may hear a little bit from Intersect about this as well, Intersect has a long-standing relationship with Nextracker. Nextracker is the world's largest manufacturer of solar tracking systems and technology. They've deployed many gigawatts of their infrastructure around the world, and they're based in Fremont. Similarly, I believe Intersect is working with Tesla as an energy storage vendor, another Alameda County-based project. So, I think what this project really just highlights is, the intersectionality of local development and how, it's not just creating local construction jobs, but it's also leveraging, the technology and innovation that's happening in Alameda County. And, that's just really exciting.
I think that's it for the presentation itself. And I know that members of the Intersect team are available for discussion and comment. Just to note, I'll hand it to you, Chair. You are on mute.
There we go. Thank you. Appreciate that. Nick and Howard, today it's a informational item. Is that correct?
That is right.
That is correct.
And we as a board, other than our contract, which we already have, we don't have any other decision-making authority in the same way that Alameda County has the ultimate authority. Is that right?
That is right. Yes. All we do, and this is actually pretty uniform for all of our power purchase agreements. They all are contingent on things like interconnection being achieved or permits being approved. And in some cases, we bring projects forward prior to their being interconnected. In all cases, it's prior to being interconnected. In some cases, it's prior to it being permitted. In some cases, it's after being permitted. So, it just sort of depends on where we are in our procurement cycle. And with this project, we have been evaluating it for quite some time. I believe this project bid into our 2018 RFO. Isn't that right, Howard?
That is correct. Yeah, that's something.
So we've been, evaluating it in the context of our portfolio for quite some time, and I think we feel like we're at a point now, particularly because of the changes that are expected with regards to the investment tax credits. And so for those of you on the board who don't know this, a big portion of the economics of solar projects come from federal investment tax credits. Currently, those are worth between the tax credits and depreciation benefits can be worth actually up to almost 50% of the project cost. So as an example, if you sign a power purchase agreement for $40, $30, it would otherwise be $60 without the investment tax credit, but the tax credit takes that price down. And that's not a totally apples to apples comparison. That's just giving you a sense of the magnitude and the importance of those tax credits. We're actually in an environment now where the tax credits are stepping down year by year by year. And eventually, I believe by the end of 2023, the tax credits will have gone from 30% down to 10%. And so with this project, but frankly, with many of the solar projects we're looking at, they're having to finalize whether or not they're going to proceed with their projects over the coming number of months. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we felt that it was timely to bring this project forward, was because of that tax credit cliff that is coming.
Okay, thank you. We have several speakers, several in the attendee box, but I see a couple of hands raised. Mary Sutter and then Mike Hannon.
Great, thank you. So it's an interesting project. We did not actually cover this item in the CAC, but we did have somebody on the project come and speak during our public speaking session. So we learned a little bit about it. I have two questions for you, probably Howard. One of your slides indicated that 100% of the jobs were going to be within Alameda County. And given the contractual relationship that EBC has for the 20 megawatts and the resource adequacy, how is that actually going to be insured? And if another CAC is coming in to be part of this, wouldn't they want some of their own workers also to be included here? So that's just me not understanding how we can say 100% are going to be Alameda County residents that work on this, although I think it would be great if it did. So that's one question. And I see it's Marissa is actually on the line, and I think she was the one that came to our CAC. So my second question is, I thought I remembered her indicating that if this project does go through, there is some component that the company would put into our EBCE community investment. It's not a grant, a program, it is money that would go into EBCE for community reinvestment. And I guess I didn't write it down. And so I wanted to clarify if that was actually planned.
Could someone answer that question?
So I can speak to the first one, and on the second one, maybe I'll direct that to Marissa, since it sounds like there was maybe some communication provided in the presentation that you can help clarify. On the first point, I think, something that I would emphasize is at least what was laid out in the slide, and I think was the intent, is Intersec's goal is to hire 100% of those jobs from Alameda County. The construction process itself is not going to begin for a matter of a couple of years. And so that, you can only go so far in that obligation as you need to go actually seek 400 jobs and workers to actually, begin that construction. So I think that is an important commitment that they've made. I think part of that commitment is really takes effect through the fact that they've signed project labor agreements with the 5 local construction crafts. And so that is obviously, those unions are locally based. And so the labor that they sort of draw on is naturally in the Alameda County area. And this project being based in Alameda County, of course, that is the sort of natural expectation with this project. And so I think that really, they're all sort of consistent statements in that regard.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Hey,
Right. Yeah, this is Marissa Mitchell. Would you like me to address the second
Yeah, I
question?
think that would make sense. I don't know what was said at yesterday's meeting exactly, so maybe you can help clarify that.
Yeah, sure, perfect. And just to follow up on what Howard said, yes, we have signed the project labor agreements with the 5 local construction crafts, ensuring that there will be local labor. We anticipate that majority, almost all of those jobs will be coming from Alameda County. The construction crafts have some members in Contra Costa County as well. So it's not a guarantee, but there's such a great workforce in Alameda County that we believe most of the workforce will come from right here. On the second question, when we did bid into the 2018 RFO, we did propose to implement a community support grant to Tipping Point. So we will be donating $250,000 to Tipping Point, which is a local nonprofit that finds other nonprofit groups in need of rooftop solar electric systems. So we will be installing solar rooftop systems on up to 10 local nonprofit organizations to help them offset their energy costs.
That sounds familiar. Thank you so much. I just hadn't written down the specifics and I couldn't remember them.
I should also, of course, point out also just going back to the first point is, of course, they may hire workers from San Joaquin County as well. We all know that we have a member there. So maybe not 100% from Alameda County. That may not be a bad thing. So
thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hannan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice save, Howard, recognizing that we have a new community of Tracy on our board. And again, it's more of a process question. I know that you had indicated that they're seeking permit approval from the county. Do you know what that permit approval is that they're seeking, Howard? Is it a land use process? What are they seeking?
I'll probably best direct that towards Marissa. She's very steeped in this right now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Howard. So we're seeking a conditional use permit. It's a land use permit. That's the only permit required in order to construct and operate the project, the only discretionary permit required, and it would be issued by Alameda County. It will be going before the Board of Zoning Adjustments later in November. Currently, the draft environmental impact report is in circulation, and the comment period closes on the draft EIR November 2nd.
Okay, and I think, Nick, I think you answered the question that it really doesn't matter to us as a board, this process, because we really have no stake in the land use issue. That's really the county's the lead in that regard. And we're just simply hoping to take advantage of some opportunities to get some good contracts on the table, if I understood correctly.
That is correct. You know, I think the one question that, you know, and part of the reason to bring it forward today for discussion and then certainly next month for approval is there may be interest at the county in what is EBC's view of this project. Mm-hmm. Does EBCE intend to procure this project? Does EBC want it to be included in its energy mix? And so the purpose of this set item is to bring the project forward for discussion. And you know, I think as things currently stand, from EBC staff's perspective, it would be to bring the project back in November for board approval, obviously conditioned on things like the permit being approved. Obviously, if the direction tonight is different and the direction is to not bring the project forward, we would not do so. But given, you know, the historical emphasis on particularly local clean energy projects, we view this as a good opportunity to fulfill those goals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other initial questions from panelists. I know we have several speakers, so we're going to limit the speakers to 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes each. And you don't even have to take the whole 2 minutes if you don't want to. So Madam Clerk, you could call the speakers now.
Thank you. Vaughn, your microphone is unmuted. And after that will be Blair Beekman, Sal Parisi, Tamara Roos, Chuck Ott, Alma Honey, and David Rounds, and Tessica O'Brien.
Yeah, my view on this is that this project needs to go through. Some of the opponents of the project are asking that it be delayed. Delaying means death as far as the project of getting things done before the CO2 in the environment gets to the point where it's irreversible. We don't have 20 years or 30 years that some of the politicians are throwing around. We may only have 10 if we're lucky. Once it gets to be irreversible, the aesthetic look of the area is going to pale in comparison to people trying to be able to breathe. We're going to face another pandemic for sure, maybe two between now and the end of the decade. That's what's happened in the last decade. We need to get the solar power out there that's as cheap as possible. I do sympathize with the people that live out there. I grew up in what became the Silicon Valley. We used to be a beautiful place before that. And it's gone downhill significantly since. But this project should be also compared against the cost of doing the solar someplace else. I have had solar on my roof for 20 years. The cost that I just did to repower it compared to the cost of the local parking lot at the high school, they paid $650,000 for 1 meg. If they converted that for a rooftop, it would cost them $4 million. That's not a cost that one part of the community should thrust upon another part of the community if we really need to get solar going. Also, the idea of long-term, long duration storage should be included in some of these projects. Long-term, long duration storage is like days, weeks, months. That's the only way the renewable energy can be viable is if we have long duration storage, not just short storage. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is
Sal, your microphone is unmuted. Did they drop off? Okay, we'll go to Blair.
I still see Sal listed on the thing here. Can you hear us, Sal? We don't hear you, so we'll keep them in the queue and we'll go to the next speaker.
Okay. Blair Beekman.
Sorry about that. Hi, hopefully I'm back on. To speak to what was hopefully to this item, to a few things that I spoke about a bit earlier. It seems like EBCE, they may not have, total administrative control over, how to work with the storage space in Livermore. But what role can the EBCE play in addressing lithium ion battery storage use and the mining of the lithium that will be needed? I'm learning that it's really important to create very high standards in human rights issues in mining and the future of mining. And something has clicked inside me that it's just vitally important, and it can be worked on, and it needs to be worked on. And how can the East Bay Community Energy take a really proactive, positive role to make those sort of demands of this storage space? It's going to be an obviously important storage space. How can EBCE have an important voice to really question, best practices? And I think that can be an incredibly important role of the EBCE, and they can do that very well. And this would be a great place to start that sort of process in how we are kind of defining the future of EBCE at this time. So good luck in those efforts, and boy, I hope we can work on it, and I'll be interested to know what that is. Obviously, this would have to be work that would have to then go to Alameda County Board of Supervisors and stuff like that. Good luck on the work back and forth to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sal, trying to unmute you again. Okay, Sal, you're unmuted.
We're still not hearing anything.
We'll move on to Tamara Roos. Your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, yes, my name's Tamara Royce. I am with Friends of Open Space and Vineyards. We're coming here tonight. We understand your role is different than the Board of Supervisors, but we wanted to bring to your attention the controversy and the concerns over this particular project. We recognize that renewable energy is important. We recognize that there's a lot at stake. However, we also, just as we're showing concern with many of these other considerations, like where jobs come from, and you know, restricting nuclear, et cetera, a lot of social justice issues, we feel that what is happening here is what we're being forced to pit conservation values against each other. And there are serious flaws in the environmental analysis conducted for this project. And we feel that it's very concerning that anyone would move forward at this point, given the parameters, given legal issues involved in this discussion, in this project, to even be discussing a contract right now. And I think it's very important to mention that, you know, we're talking about a 500-page plus EIR that's going to have comments coming in on November 2nd. And the applicant is already saying, oh, we're confident we'll be ready to go in a couple weeks. That just shows me their commitment to the actual environmental impacts, or their lack thereof, of this project. So I really urge you not to do anything until we know what's really going to happen here. Also, the Sierra Club is neutral on this, and it was reported in the local independent newspaper that they wanted to do environmental review first. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chuck, your microphone is available.
Good evening, and thanks for listening to all of us. Countless persons and organizations spanning decades have fought to preserve the agricultural land, open space, watershed, and wildlife habitats and scenic beauty of North Livermore Valley. Their work culminated in the passage of Measure D to now allow North Livermore Valley to be blanketed by hundreds of thousands of solar panels, miles of fencing, and internal access roads, scores of trailer truck-sized lithium-ion battery stations, and numerous overhead electrical transmission lines and towers strikes a dagger in the heart of Measure D. Completely understand the need for solar, and in particular with battery backup. The state already has more solar than they know what to do with at this point in time. And to utilize this and put the largest solar plant in the Bay Area in such environmentally place in Livermore is really hard. Please consider postponing any consideration on this project until the county's gone through the approval process, through the EIRs. And because this is zoned agriculture, it is not a given right to be able to put this in there. They have to be approved for a conditional use permit prior, and that's what's going through the county at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Rounds, your microphone is unmuted.
Thank you. Good evening. David Rounds from Livermore. First, congratulations on a clean audit. That's not always possible. You all commissioned a solar siting survey for Alameda County from the Clean Coalition nonprofit in 2017, just before EBCE was launched. The result of that survey were impressive, but they identified 650 megawatts of potential siting in Alameda County from a distributed grid of existing built locations that could provide a minimum of 1 megawatt each. And looking at smaller sites, the potential would exceed a total of 2 gigawatts. Not all this potential is possible to realize. It's still huge in comparison to what Aramis is currently negotiating to make available to address resource adequacy in the county. EBCE's work to make a distributed grid happen is exactly the kind of effort and investment I would expect from a green public agency. Putting solar on existing and new built locations in the urban part of the county is about as green as you can get. However, if the county and EBCE focuses on fulfilling its green energy requirements by encouraging huge utility scale projects like the Aramis project in North Livermore, then it seems to me that it's less likely that aggressive efforts will be made to develop a significant distributed grid. The Aramis project will cover scenic rural agricultural land in East Livermore with 320,000 solar panels. This will be the largest solar installation in the Bay Area. There are better ways to generate solar power for the county in better locations than on this protected scenic agricultural land. I understand the attractiveness of this project, but Aramis is not a good project for the local environment, and I encourage you to make a stand and reject using Aramis as a source of energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Who do we have next, Stephanie?
O'Brien, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what was previously said with the last commentators about this project not necessarily being a great fit for the area it's sited on, the North Livermore Valley area, which has been a protected scenic corridor for many years now. It's protected by Measure D. Additionally, the draft EIR and I imagine the final EIR itself has many failings in regards to SECA. I don't think it adheres to certain requirements of SECA law. I think it's in direct violation of Measure D and touts itself as an agricultural installation, which is what its conditional use permit is poised upon. However, it fails to live up to certain designations as designated in the LPA, which kind of helps with the rules and mandates of granting these CUP permits. This really isn't an agricultural project, which is what they're trying to tout it as. They're using precedent set by 2 prior projects that were approved almost a decade ago in some instances as precedent to say that these do qualify as agricultural use. And they're also using the installation of wind turbines as precedent. I think you'll find that when the draft EIR and the final EIR and this project go for review, it'll be challenged legally, which could mire this project for an extended period of time. So I don't think it's necessarily forward thinking to saddle you guys with a contract that might not pan out. And just to speak to some of the people that are talking about the need for renewable energy, California hit its goal by over 3% in 2019 and is poised to hit the 60% requirement in 2030. There's over 9,000 megawatts of production in the pipeline that is already permitted. And what we have is a battery storage shortage, not a solar panel storage. That's where we really need to focus our efforts. And I hope that also people do pay attention to the humanitarian issue of mining lithium and especially cobalt for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Those are ongoing humanitarian issues that need to be addressed as well as these environmental issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
A. Mahoney, your microphone is available.
Good evening. My name is Adam Mahoney. I'm a longtime resident of Livermore for over 20 years. I am a professional engineer and professional land surveyor licensed in the state of California. I am an avid bicyclist and a hiker and really have enjoyed the public lands that are available to me and my family. Also what's interesting is that I, actually lived in North Livermore recently, and I actually rode my bike a lot up and down Manning Avenue and North Livermore. And actually one of my neighbors was one of the farmers that was in this area. So I think I've got a really good idea of the farming aspect of this area. Prior to this meeting, I made a point to actually drive over Morgan Territory and actually drive over North Mines just to see what the visual impact of this project is. And as I did that, I noticed that a lot of the residents in this particular area actually had solar power. And so that was really good. And so after reading this proposed project, I have to say that I support this. I support this for several reasons. Number one, I don't believe the view impact is really going to be that great. The screening, actually from Morgan Territory, you really can't see this area. From Mines Road, you can't see this. Number two, the applicant has a lot of mitigation measures that are here. They have said that they want to protect the watershed, and they want to actually provide open space for other public people to come in and walk up and down and enjoy that. The third thing is people talked about Measure D. Yes, Measure D did limit the impact, limit the development of this area, but it also really restricted the amount of stuff that people can do. And I really think that we owe it to the owners of this property to actually have something that they can invest their property in and actually make it a benefit for all of this community. And that includes the fact that I had my power out a lot this summer. And if I had this power, the solar system here, I probably wouldn't have had that. So thank you.
Thank you.
You,
Next
Alita
speaker.
Dupree.
Thank you, Chair Dan Calvin, members, Alita Dupree for the record. Solar and storage is obviously important, and utility scale solar does play an important part. It's one of a number of options, and we need to keep our options on the table. And I've advocated to you before about the importance of local development, in part because of transmission constraints. And when the alternative is to keep burning natural gas and coal and oil and nuclear, which we don't want. And so I think it is important for this agency to continue to search for and nail down contracts so that way we can be prepared when the permitting comes and the projects can go into construction and commissioning. Because as I've said before, renewables are inexpensive, clean, and equitable electricity that has myriad benefits. And to hold back from that will only, unfortunately, continue the burning of fossil fuels, which are often cited in neighborhoods of concern. And so I was at a New Jersey Transit meeting earlier today where they have decided to move away from natural gas, if technically feasible, to run their railroad. And that's a complicated issue. So I support responsible development, and I think this project is satisfying at least my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sal, your microphone is unmuted.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. I don't know what was going on with my office phone, but my cell phone works. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Again, my name is Sal Parisi. I am a resident of Livermore, and I am a field representative for the Carpenters. I represent approximately 5,000 members who live right here in Alameda County. I am in support of this proposed development here in front of us. As you've heard a couple times tonight, it's going to generate 100 megawatts of clean, reliable solar power for more than 25,000 homes and businesses throughout the Bay Area. It's going to also create good jobs for the construction trade workers locally. This project does comply with all the zoning laws and the county's general plan and is outside of the North Livermore urban growth boundary. The solar company has gone to great lengths to site and design the project in an environmentally and socially responsible way. And I believe they've also proposed extensive landscaping to protect the aesthetic view shed for the neighbors and traffic passing by, because I know that's been a concern. The project sponsor has made a commitment to pay the area's standard wages and benefits and to hire locally. And as most of you know, most jobs are, 2 hours, 2.5 hour drives. So to see this right here in Livermore is great. It's opportunity for Livermore residents to go to work in their own community. And it's also a, opportunity for a great commute. In conclusion, like I said, the Carpenters Union is in full support, and we urge you to consider the positive benefits this proposed project will bring to our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there more speakers?
Yes, I have another group to call after these three.
Right.
With Merlin Newton Sr., please.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
As a consumer of the East Bay Community Energy, I feel EBCA should not needlessly pit two important environmental values such as greater renewable energy and environmental preservation against each other by entering into a contract with Intersect. The Aramis project is so massive of a power plant that it will destroy hundreds of acres of agricultural land and permanently impair the scenic beauty of our North Livermore Valley. No utility scale solar plant of this magnitude can be found anywhere in the Bay Area. It's going to have approximately 320,000 solar panels spanning across approximately 750 acres of land. There are many companies out there that have been able to do both, save the environment and develop renewable energy. And we should look at rewarding those individuals. A lot of people have talked about the EIR and about the legalities of Measure D or the Williamson Act, but those are issues that are going to have to be addressed. And there's other concerns out here of more important or pressing matters. For example, ABAG, Association of Bay Area Governments, identified the area where this is going to sit as an area of conservation that they want to pursue. This area is surrounded by no less than 6 preserves within 1.5 miles of each other. It's going to land on top of our drinking water that we drink out here. I live out here, and it's on top of my groundwater. And as you all are well aware, we just had 11 groundwater wells identified as contaminated. And our groundwater is already listed as an area of concern by both Zone 7 and Alameda County. So there are significant concerns you're going to have to think about if you want to bring in renewable energy and protect the environment. We can do both without destroying the other. Thank you.
Mario Santa Cruz, your microphone is available.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mario Santa Cruz. I work in Livermore. I'm a field representative with the millwrights. Just so you know a little bit of this, the millwrights are the workers. They install the solar trackers in this solar panels. So this project, if it happens, it will create quite a bit of work for Alameda County employees, which we have members throughout Alameda County and Coco County, and also in San Joaquin County, which is Tracy. These projects are happening throughout California, not only throughout California, but some other states, and it's because these projects are good for the environment. They're happening in different counties around Alameda County, and it's because it's providing clean energy, which we need. We need less pollution and work close to home and work for the members of the county. So I'm in support of this project. I hope you guys do the same. It's good for the environment and the people. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call Joe Thompson, David Nelson, Christine. Sorry, I don't want to butcher your last name. Christine B. Also Martin Espinoza and Zico S. Vincent, your microphone is unmuted. Okay. Moving on to Sheldon Kimber. Your microphone is unmuted.
Sorry, guys. I had a similar child issue. I just had to shut my door. Apologies. This is Sheldon Kimber. I'm the CEO of Intersect and the founder of the company. I've been in solar for quite a long time. Before that, I worked for a company called Calpine. I wound up basically helping to permit and finance a handful of gas-fired plants around the country, many of which were actually in lower income neighborhoods around the Bay Area. You head on up to Los Medanos or Delta Energy Center, or even over to some of the places like the Los Esteros facility. You're going to find folks that have been impacted by power in our communities. And I think what we have here is, a situation not unlike those, but one that, as many have pointed out, can have a broader positive impact for our entire community if we can make some responsible compromises. So the first thing I want to just hit on is that this is private land, and we're actually opening it up to public use in hiking trails. The second thing is to just say that, we have had the rooftop solar study, but if you wanted to put this much rooftop in, you should talk to Nick and the staff about how much that would cost. It would cost easily 2 to 3 times what this project can produce for. This project is really a showcase of energy transition. I mean, it's going to have solar, battery storage, integrated agricultural uses, public access to private land, union labor, local content. It really, you couldn't ask for anything more of a developer. I understand that there are folks that are going to be upset. Power plants go in people's backyards. But this project really dies without your support. It's really time to be bold and, I think, embrace your mission, which this project is really right at the heart of.
Thank you, Christine. Your microphone is unmuted.
Hi there, my name is Christine Beach Bomani. Thanks for not murdering it.
Thank you.
I am a longtime resident, in fact, grew up here in Alameda County, and I work in Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin area. And I am in support of definitely local clean energy. And my experience with this company, Intersect Power, has been really positive. They have contributed in our worst time right now in the middle of a pandemic. Leading a nonprofit is extremely difficult. We work with a lot of these people that don't have jobs and are struggling to pay their PG&E bills. And they have come in and funded a lot of these crisis direct services for our organization. So I just really think they have a lot of integrity, and I am in support of this project.
Thank you, David Nelson. Your microphone is unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is David Nelson. I am a long-time Livermore resident for over 30 years. And I support the Aramis Renewable Energy Project. Alameda County efforts towards creating a sustainable energy future should start with the approval of the 100 megawatt Aramis solar and battery storage project, which will be Northern California's most significant solar and storage project ever built. I urge you to do the right thing by Alameda County residents, current and future, by approving the Aramis project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean King. Your microphone is unmuted.
Yes, this is Jean King, a longtime resident of Livermore. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. I very much accept the dire consequences of global warming and the need to establish renewable energy, but we do not want to do it in the wrong way. This is a trade-off. We do not want to sacrifice other valuable resources such as the agricultural lands, the natural resources, and the water resources lands that are in that area to establish the solar energy. There are opportunities and choices that can be made about the location of solar. Comprehensive studies must be done, followed by community input. There's a very strong feeling by the citizens in the valley that this location in North Livermore is not the best choice. We have worked to preserve the open space in our valley and not have it be developed. first by establishing County Measure D and then the cities in the Tri-Valley establishing UGBs. I do not consider land covered by solar panels to be open space. This solar development is an industrial facility in an agricultural, natural resources, and water resources area. It is too early to consider a contract. Shouldn't you wait to see what conditions are approved by the county before signing a contract? You're very worried about batteries. You're worried about the workers that will be employed there. Wait until the agreement is okayed by the county before you sign a contract. Alameda County is in the process of developing a solar policy, but has not completed it yet. This will include a study that will evaluate different locations. The EIR has not been approved yet. Comments are not due until November. You need to wait for that. I've listened to the Aramis video and have several comments about some of their comments in that. So I ask you not to approve your contract at this time. Thank you.
Vincent James Courtney, your microphone is unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Vince Courtney. I'm calling on behalf of Laborers Union Local 304. I want to thank all the board members for their tireless efforts in connection with this project, and just remind people that the laborers, when they work a full year, they work about 1,700 hours a year. That's about $57,000 in wages. So every opportunity that we get to transition them into these clean energy projects, we're going to do it, because we see California moving in a direction of closing refineries, getting rid of coal, getting rid of dirty energy, and we're trying to act locally while thinking globally. So we urge you without delay to support the project. Do everything we can do. We represent about 550, 560, give or take, men and women in the city of Livermore and 10,000 households in Alameda County. So we're asking you to support these working families, these community members, and make sure they have an opportunity to transition into these clean energy goals and these clean energy jobs. Thank you very much for hearing us tonight.
Antonio Munoz, your microphone is unmuted. Okay, moving on to Fernando Estrada, your microphone is unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Fernando Estrada, and I'm the business manager of the Laborers Union here in Alameda County with offices in Hayward, Oakland, and Livermore. And I'm also a resident. There are over 10,000 laborers living in the county, with 566 of them living in Livermore. And we got their full support for this project. We're in the business of putting people to work with good paying jobs, benefits, and good working conditions. And this project is one of them. More importantly, this project will create around 400 jobs and will cut the commute for a lot of our members, but it will create job opportunities to some folks. Some young folks sitting on a corner, not knowing what to do with their lives. We work with high schools and different community-based organizations. We also have an agreement with Helmets to Hard Hats, an organization that helps our veterans from find work within the building trades. So this project will do all that. So don't miss out on the opportunity on giving our members in your community, veterans, the opportunity to work on projects like this. So we ask you to support the Aramis project without delay. Thank you.
Joe Thompson, your microphone is unmuted. Okay, we'll go to Mario Santa Cruz. You're unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
There you go. This is Joe Thompson. Yes.
Hi, my name is Joe Thompson, a longtime resident in Livermore, also a business owner in Livermore. I fully support this project, clean renewable energy is the future. You see it going around everywhere. The county has many projects, carports, that they're doing the same thing. And yes, this is in an agricultural area, but this agricultural area is seasonal grazing for cattle. It's not like it's row crops. So the impact is very minimal. And also the project will be facilitated with an EIR report, which will look into all the habitats, but we all know that projects will get approved with working with those agencies to accommodate for those habitats. So I don't think that this is a very big environmental impact, in my opinion. Also, when you look across the area, there's minimal row crops. It is very dry out there. The proposed arrays that will be built out there is a huge benefit to our community. Again, rolling blackouts have been going on for like 3 years now. The power that PG&E has over us, and to switch our power off is ridiculous. This project is going to bring some sustainability to us here in Livermore. Also, them allowing sheep to graze on the project, I mean, they're continuing the same practices that are going on now. So to me, there is no impact environmentally. I support this project. I urge everybody to support this project. And I want to thank you for your time.
Zico, your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, my name is Zico Ceridian. I live in Livermore. I work in Livermore. My wife works in Livermore. I'm really excited about this project. I believe that the location of the project is ideal. If you look at where it's located, it's in the low area. I understand the word agriculture is being thrown around, but I believe that the impacts are limited. The EIR report is a process, and sure, there are people that are going to have some opinions that they can extrapolate. But when you just dig in and you start looking at this in a very neutral way, and understand that we do not want to have the PG&E Mercy, under the PG&E Mercy, to go ahead and shut down that switch. And we just got a text message, a couple hours ago saying that, okay, we're not going to shut down the switch tomorrow. And that's a big deal for us. It's not like we have generators that we can go ahead and get substitute energy. We are facing the future. We know what's going on. We see what's happening, and it's time to act. A renewable energy project, just because it's big, that doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, it means it's local. It means that it's going to provide 22,000 plus homes with clean energy that is cheaper than providing other energies that we've talked about previously. We talked about carports and so on. So we are gaining power. We are basically providing the owner of that land an opportunity to use that land. And we're telling people that, this is a good place to live, because my kids, when they look around and see these solar panels, they're not going to be disgusted by it. They're going to ask what it is, and we're going to tell them we're changing the future. We're putting where our mouth is. We're putting where the land is, where it belongs, and putting it to the best use for the future generation. So at the end, I encourage you to support this. I encourage level-headedness in this. And let's not just at the aesthetics part and just do wild accusations about underground water being affected because there's solar panels on it. And of course, we do care about the aesthetics, and we do want this project to happen. And we're glad for the opportunity to participate. Thank you.
Alexis Sapien, your microphone is available.
Thank you. My name is Alexis Sapien, representing Nextracker Inc., one of the largest manufacturers of utility-scale solar tracking technology in the world, supplying about half of the U.S. market, and we are headquartered right here in Fremont, California. I would like to thank Intersect Power for putting the Aramis Renewable Energy Project in front of us today, and the board for taking the time to listen. Nextracker employs many individuals throughout the East Bay, including Livermore, which is the proposed home of the 100 megawatt Aramis project. We understand firsthand what it means to be at the forefront of this project, not only as leaders of the solar industry, but as members of the community. Nextracker has a long-standing relationship with Intersect Power, and we are thrilled that such an initiative is taking place in our backyard. Renewable energy is the future. Now is the time, and the most valuable renewables are sited close to load centers like the Aramis project. Our planet is facing a very real and very evident climate crisis, and we cannot wait to approve projects like the Aramis. Within 1 hour, our planet receives enough sunlight to provide the world with enough electricity for an entire year. Companies like Nextracker and Intersect Power are responsible for harnessing this magnificent gift and delivering it to your front doors, and doing so at competitive wholesale prices. This is a joint community effort, and we are so excited at the prospect. Apart from the abundance of environmental benefits, the Aramis project has signed a 5-trade labor agreement that incorporates our local union workers. As a partner with the City of Fremont, Alameda County, and the Aramis Solar Project, Nextracker's founder and CEO, Dan Sugar, has committed to training up to 24 people through our PowerWorks Academy program at our Center for Solar Excellence in Fremont, California. Sorry, excuse me. So I encourage you all to support the Aramis Renewable Energy Project. Thank you.
Hey, Mario Santa Cruz, one more time. Your microphone is available. I cannot unmute it from my end. Okay. There's no response. Thank you, Chair. That concludes our list of speakers for this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any speakers. Any board members have any additional questions? Again, this is an informational item, not an action item. I see Councilmember Mendel and Councilmember Carling.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do realize this is an informational item, but I feel it's important to weigh in a little bit on this tonight and make a few generic comments about this type of project. This is the type of project that EBCE was created to build. This is why EBCE was formed, to build local renewable projects in Alameda County and San Joaquin now, with local jobs, union jobs. This is what we're here for, right? This is the kind of project we absolutely have to support, the very top of our list. I acknowledge that this will have some, view impacts and other impacts. There's no form of power that doesn't have some negative impacts, so wind has impacts on birds and the view but we have to put this in perspective. One of the speakers mentioned natural gas power plants being built in the area. There's one in Hayward, a Calpine natural gas power plant that kills people. The pollution that is spewed by natural gas power plants causes asthma and death in humans. And that is polluting the air that all of us breathe, not just Hayward, all of us, including folks in Livermore. Folks in Livermore are dying as a result of the natural gas power plant in Hayward. I don't want to be too melodramatic about this, but it's important to put that in perspective. And the only way that we shut those plants down permanently is by building tons of renewable power, right? That's the future. And I haven't even mentioned, the need to combat climate change, right? And renewable power doesn't just get built on rooftops where it's expensive in urban areas. It needs to get built in, other parts of the county as well, right? We all need to do our part. And saying not in my backyard, put it in the urban area, I did not appreciate that comment. I think we all need to contribute a little bit here in order to save the planet, in order to save lives and do the right thing. So I guess I just hope people will put that in perspective a little bit and acknowledge that the impacts from this kind of a project are pretty minimal compared to the kinds of projects that it's going to be allowing us to shut down. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Carling, and then Nick Pilch from Albany.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. First of all, I wanted to thank all the speakers. There was quite an extensive list of folks to offer opinions. And I will tell the other, or mention that to the other board members here tonight, that we, the Livermore City Council, had a discussion about this, I don't know, 4 weeks ago, something like that. And I'm speaking for myself tonight and not for my colleagues, so please keep that in mind. The comments that I made that night were that I view climate change as an existential threat to the globe. And I think it's time to make some tough decisions. And I think we all need to do our part. And our colleague from Hayward, I think, said it very well, that that's what EBCE is all about. So that at that meeting that night, I supported the Aramis project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carling. And let's see, Mayor Pilch. Nick, are you still the mayor of Albany?
I still am the mayor for a few more months, yes.
Okay, great. Mayor Pilch from Albany, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Chair. Yeah, a lot of things came up for me during the presentation. Actually, during the listening to the public as well, I had got a lot of information. The presentation on this project is a little bit lean, which is fine. We are going to be one of the EBC is proposing to be one of the parties negotiating a contract for resource adequacy here. So I have one question for staff and then a few comments. So staff, what is the effect? What would be the effect on this project, if you know, of us signing a contract for resource adequacy or not signing a contract?
The effect on the contract, on the project itself?
On the project, yes.
You know,
if you can say.
I would say, you know, we are the overall offtake of the project, it's 100 megawatts. We are seeking to procure resource adequacy from 25 megawatts of the project. So it's not the whole project. I don't think we are really in a position, I wouldn't actually want to speak to the impact one way or the other that our offtake would or would not have on this project. That's just not, I think, we're not in a position to make a comment on that. Certainly Intersect can, but I don't think that we're in a position to say that. I think the overall impact on EBCE is, and I think this is actually a critical point to highlight, and I think it's in line with what Al was saying. In many ways, what we're buying from this project, which is the energy storage, is more valuable from an environmental perspective than the solar energy. When we're buying, at this point, given how much solar we have, buying solar from this project or some other project, solar is competing with solar. It's that addition of energy storage is really what starts to allow you to displace natural gas. This is 25 megawatts of capacity, which means this is truly going to allow us to not buy 25 megawatts of natural gas. And I think that's what's so impactful, is that we are displacing natural gas in our service territory with a system that's built in our service territory. So that's the impact.
Okay. I see strong staff support then for us signing a contract and for this project going forward. And so what comes up for me is that there are environmental trade-offs here for the project. I certainly understand that we are competing, that there is a strong also pressure for us to make sure that we secure those renewable assets, and we are, we want to get to 100% carbon-free, 100% renewable. So I understand that that's very important for us. The environmental trade-offs, it'd be interesting to see the EIR. We don't have that yet, so we can't comment on some aspects of the project. So other things that come up for me are that the Sierra Club supports it. I'm a little surprised at that. The Sierra Club would not normally support kind of industrial size projects like this. However, the Sierra Club, I know, works in a way that the local organizations, the local clubs or the local groups make the decisions for the local area, and probably the local group is supporting this. The fact that it's displacing cattle grazing is actually interesting to me, because cattle grazing is an environmentally destructive thing. So I'd love to see that go away. The fact that sheep and all these things I'm getting from comments from the public, so I don't know if how true they are to the extent that they are true, but if we assume them to be true, the sheep grazing, if they're sheep grazing with the project, well, then there is some agricultural benefit being put back for the agricultural land that is lost. So that's good. But in general, these large scale projects are not the thing you want to do. And finally, I do appreciate that the economic benefits for the area, and I don't want to naysay a project that will, which does seem to produce a lot of economic benefits for the area. So that's just a mixture of the thoughts that come to mind when I evaluate the project. And I think, of course, I agree that securing that resource adequacy is important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pilch. Do we have any more comments from panelists, from board members? I'm not seeing any. Somebody has their hand raised, no? Not seeing any. Okay, I see that. Nick, did you have any more comments?
Just one more comment, and perhaps a request if there is any additional feedback. So this project is going to be going before a county, I guess, committee in the coming weeks, and then eventually before the county. At this point, the primary position EBC is taking with regards to this project is bringing it forward for this discussion, and then an action item in November to approve the contract. There has been some discussion amongst staff as to whether or not we might want to write a letter indicating our general support for this project in the context of procuring local renewables. We haven't taken a formal position. Generally, letters of support, though, don't require formal board action either. And I think a letter of support would just be indicative of EBC supports local clean energy and be very fact-based in, as it relates to bringing it forward to the board. And so I did want to ask, are there any issues that board members have with providing a letter sort of indicating sort of a fact-based assessment of what's happened so far? I don't think we're taking a formal, you should approve or you should not approve, but just indicating this is where we are and we intend to bring it forward for approval in November.
Mr. Chair, if I may comment, Mike Hanna from Newark.
Yeah, but I think Councilmember Hernandez from San Leandro was first, then Mike, and you go after that.
Thank you, Chair. Just one clarifying question. I noticed in the letter from the community members speaking to a solar policy, and I don't know if I missed that or didn't hear that, but something about a 10-year process, that there was going to be some kind of solar policy. If there's any additional light to that, it'd be nice to have that information to see what the backstory is there. I mean, I'm supportive of solar, of course, but I just want to better understand what is that item that's being brought up in that letter, and to have better context next month when we choose to move this forward with the board support, if it's present. I just want to clarify that, and letter of support is important, and happy to support that.
I'd be happy to address that if you like.
Please.
Okay, great. Yeah. So in 2018, the Alameda County Planning Department staff brought a draft solar policy and siting study to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors declined to move forward with it at that time, but there's been a recent call to reinitiate the process to adopt a specific solar policy to identify lands within the county that would be suitable. The 2018 draft policy was essentially complete, but it still has not gone through the CEQA process. It's about, a 1 year long process to do an environmental impact report. So that would need to be done. The 2018 solar policy, however, it identifies lands such as those where the Aramis project is sited. So lower quality agricultural lands with severe limitations to cultivation, class 3 and class 4 soils. It identifies lands that are not identified as prime soils or statewide importance agricultural lands. It calls for the siting of solar facilities in areas that have low quality habitat value for threatened and endangered and other types of protected species, like the site of the Aramis project does have. After 3 years of extensive study, it was determined, and you can read it in the EIR, which is published to the county's website, that it is not habitat for protected species. And in fact, through our management practices, we think we can really enhance and bring back protected species to the site. And we're actually funding research to demonstrate that with some local nonprofit organizations and academic institutions. The county's environmental impact report does find that the project is compatible with the general plan, the East County Area Plan, and Measure D, the voter initiative that created an open space buffer and protection for agricultural land. So that's where we are. Calls for delaying consideration of the project until after a solar policy is adopted is really just a call for a delay in approval and attempt to sort of kill the project. And we understand the feelings of local residents. We know that this can be hard, but supporting hard things is the only way to make change, and not supporting hard things is how we got into this mess in the first place.
And let me follow up on that information, if I may, Chair. To understand it is that they've gone through solar policy in 2018. It didn't go anywhere further, but there was a report by staff done, and you might have to do a CEQA, or maybe that was going to be the next step, if I want to understand that further. Is that correct?
That's right. So staff will need to bring the draft solar policy, the final draft solar policy, to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors will need to direct staff to prepare a CEQA document and fully comply with CEQA. That typically takes a minimum 6 months, but in this case, probably more like 12 to 18 months, a full EIR. So yeah, in fact, it's not really legal, as council would tell me, for the county to delay consideration of pending projects without adopting a moratorium. In the moratorium, they would have to make particular findings that there's an immediate threat to public health or public safety for not adopting the moratorium. So in this case, it really makes common sense to just move forward with consideration of the project on a case-by-case basis, which is what the board directed staff to do back in 2018 when they declined to move forward with the draft solar policy at that time.
Final clarification, if I may. So staff would have to county supervisors need to direct staff in that direction. At that point, it's not in play unless it changes in the upcoming meetings to direct staff in that direction to do the full CEQA analysis, which can take 12 to 18 months, and how things are, everything's sort of slower, so it can be longer. But regardless, if we do sign this agreement, then we want to move forward, we still have to wait for that queue or that completion, either whichever way. And so it depends on the power to continue that fight or not. So then it'll be up to the provider to continue that effort. Would that be about right? Or would that sort of kill the deal in the perspective of the provider?
In a hearing of the technical and policy committee or planning committee the other day, where Scott Haggerty is a member of that committee has sort of jurisdiction over directing staff here, and that committee directed staff to move forward with continuing the solar policy work, but to process individual solar applications that are already in the queue at this time under the existing process, which is the current rules.
And we're talking about county staff, correct?
County staff, correct.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hannan from Newark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two comments. I want to make sure that we're not offsetting one environmental desire with another environmental issue that might be raised as the environmental impact report is completed. If there are any significant environmental issues that are raised through the EIR, I would hope that staff would bring those to our attention so that we can weigh those impacts versus the benefit of approving the purchase of any energy from this project. Secondly, Nick, to your suggestion, I have no problem with having you draft a letter indicating that this board, I would imagine, supports the procurement of clean energy from this facility. My only request, if my colleagues agree, is that you run any draft by the executive board for their review. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have any other, seeing people raising their hands, but I don't see any more hands. I'm not seeing any more hands. This is an informational item for now. Nick, that's right. No action, of course, tonight. Is that right?
Right.
Right. Okay, I see no more hands among board members. Actually, it says there is two, but I don't see them. So
there's one hand for public comment. Merlin Newton spoke during the initial public comment to this item.
Yeah, then that person has already had their opportunity. There's no rebuttal or anything. So as long as they had their comment earlier on this item, is what you're saying?
Yes, correct. They spoke to this item.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right, thank you very much. That's all for this item. Nick, is this coming back to us in some form or another next month?
Yes, it will come back as an action item in November.
Right. Okay, so colleagues, be prepared to be lobbied individually by whomever wants to lobby you. And we are all used to that. We know how that works. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the public comment, all the hard work that's going into this, everybody's perspective. We have a lot of work to do for EBCE and our customers and our goal, our clean energy goals. And so this item is now complete for tonight. And I believe we have finished the agenda other than any board member announcements or any other questions about future agendas. I see Mayor Pilch.
Yes, just that I would like staff to take note of the comments about making sure that minutes and recordings of meetings are up on the website. I'm sure it's an oversight or otherwise, and it's not intentional, but I do think it's important for transparency and for public process that we get those materials up on our website as quickly as possible. And I thank the public for pointing those things out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see no other comments or good of the order. So let's all wish everybody a happy election day and a good celebration afterwards with the new occupants of the big house over there in Washington, D.C. And have everybody a nice night. Take care, get rest, work hard. And thank you all for being here tonight. The next meeting is Wednesday, November 18th. Bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Good night.
Good luck.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thanks.